Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Um, this is what kept me. I just saw a post about Aiden having to file an emergency restraining order on 5150. And the very first thing I notice on the bottom is this. If I can make it bigger, I was trying to save it. Let's see. Oh, this isn't the page. That's why. The very first page says at the bottom what she's ordered to stop doing, basically. And it's one line: stop coercive control. Like right here at the bottom. I can't make it bigger, damn it, without saving it and going. I don't know how to do that yet from my actual laptop. But this is insane. I mean, I know we talk and make fun, but psychologically speaking, this is just out of control. I Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I truly don't. Like, this is just like, get a grip, woman. Move on. He's just not that into you. Get a fucking life. I I thought reading it, I haven't read the actual report yet. And I thought if you guys were interested, we could go over it because I mean this she's they need to do something quickly because it truly people make fun um and say that they worry comparing her with um if you guys know who Jodi Arias is. And I never thought for I mean sometimes it's funny to make fun. But this, like, it's never ending, and you start to wonder. I mean, in Jodi Arias's case, they were still like sleeping together, and not that that makes any difference. It's not like I'm saying that, but Aiden has made it perfectly clear. Like, get out of my life, leave me alone. I've moved on. You should too. I don't get this level of behavior. You've lost your job. You've lost your life. You're about to lose your freedom if you don't fucking quit. Um, I'm saving these to my Dropbox so that I can open them and make them bigger as we go over them. It's just going to take me a minute. Yeah, it is really sad that it's come to this. I mean, really, like, get a fucking life. Another whack job, yeah. This one's an actual whack job, though. It's funny the way that they throw that term around in Massachusetts. And somehow this It hasn't registered that this is what a true whack job is. It's insane to me. I just don't get it. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm saying that knowing that I said this when she had a job and still spent all of her day sitting on Twitter, just going on and on and on. Supposedly, she deleted her Twitter again, and this is what happens. Like, oh, I just don't get it. That's one of the first modern trials you watch. Oh, Jodi Arias, yeah, that trial. Well, you want to talk about a whack job? Yeah, she is a whack. They're all like these kind of women. Just make it bad for the rest of us who, would are normal. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm normal, and I actually hate the term normal. I'll be honest, because what's normal to one can be not normal to another. It's not. That's not. But just being a person who has some morals, has some empathy, tries to work hard, doesn't shit on other people unless they absolutely deserve it. I guess I should say that for me anyway. Um, I don't know. Like, is there? I just psychologically. That's why I just start to wonder. Like, is there a true screw loose there? What is it that makes a woman go this nuts? I mean, this obviously isn't her first time doing crazy shit. But nothing this horrible has come out for about the last one. I mean, the emails and the stuff that she did to him, I don't know. Maybe he's just kept quiet about it all. That poor guy. I mean, these guys that are left in her wake, man, I feel so bad. And right now, with Aiden still in her sights, I truly start to worry. I never worried physically for Aiden before. I truly thought it was, people just comparing her to Jodi Arias and stuff. I just thought, whatever. She's just a whack job. She's harmful with her computer and words. But I mean, she literally used the system to get a restraining order on him. And she's obviously still doing shit where he was able to get an emergent restraining order on her. Like, I just move on. How hard is it to grasp to move on? Oh yeah, OJ. OJ was I was in my what was that in the mid 90s, right? So I was in high school, I think. I remember my mom watched some of it. She wasn't into like watching like every minute of it or anything, but I do remember her watching the I'll never forget her watching the a verdict and like just the look on her face and the loud gasp that they found him not guilty. Guys do the same thing, but I have no clue. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, I can't generalize. I'm only talking about women because this is about a woman. But yeah, there are groups of these kinds of people in both sexes, male, female. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely more than even just possessive and controlling men out there that go nuts when you try to leave them. Oh, Tom, I'm going over the restraining order. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm just flabbergasted that this bitch just doesn't fucking move on. Like, I'm psychologically, I'm trying to understand 5150, and I just happened to come across this restraining order Aiden had to finally take out on her, and I was saving it to my Dropbox so I could pull it up and read it. I'm trying. These are the kind of people that my mind just can't wrap around. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Why do you waste the one life you have with this kind of bullshit? Okay, I got these in my Dropbox, and now I can make it bigger. Yeah, about women going nuts. Thank God we don't have spouses like that. Like, I don't have a spouse. I'm happily single. And these are the reasons why. I mean, like I was just saying, and Terry pointed out, is that there are definitely men like this too. This isn't just a woman thing. And when I talk about psychology and I even apply things I've learned and in my mind have somewhat diagnosed 5150, I've mentioned borderline personality. She fits it to a T. But she's like, now, this was months ago. Now she's gone way beyond borderline personality. Like, this is just, she's crazy. And I don't mean in a funny sense. She's like, she's gone full blown insane. Yeah. Learned a long time ago to just walk away. Right. I mean, even if they say they break up with you and you're still in love with them, okay. But what good is it to constantly contact them if they don't want to be with you? They don't want to be with you. Get over it. It may take some time, it may hurt, but spending every waking moment trying to either get back with them or destroy them or make their life a living hell, like, all you're doing is ruining your own life. That's the part I don't get. So this is where at the bottom it says, you are also ordered refrain from coercive control, and then the statute. It was dated March 29th. Oh, wait, whoa. Am I like a week late on this shit? This says March 20th, I think. March 20. I thought it said 29 until I got it zoomed in. It says March 20th, 2026. Wow, I just realized I didn't mean to show her dress. I did not know that the dress wasn't blurred out. Sorry. I'm going to keep that off the page. I do not want to dox people. Although, I mean, I'll be honest, this shit's out there everywhere. Yeah, it's the 31st. I know, but the date on the actual oh, okay. See, I'm retarded. I was looking at day of March 2026, but I didn't see, okay, they wrote, yes, okay. I didn't see the 30. I hate when they put the date before the month because I completely missed it. That's why I was like, what? Okay, so it says true copy this 30th day of March 2026. I'm reading it all wrong each and every time I look at it. So, but I got it now. So today's the 31st. So this was yesterday. Hey, Jeannie. I just came across this and was like, what the fuck? So I thought we'd go over it real quick because this is what got me right here. This bottom part that says refrain from coercive control. Like, she is still how she's already released so much shit that she should have never had, that she hacked into to get. I don't know how she hasn't been arrested yet. Like, I truly hope that's the next step, because she deserves it. She needs to get a grip. Someone needs to snap her into some sort of reality that you can't just do this shit without repercussions. I know it's Massachusetts, but this is getting, like, no, I can't even say it's getting out of control. It's been way out of control. But good on Aiden to finally, go and get an RO and do something. I don't know what he does in his background, or, and without telling obviously his followers. So who knew? I don't try to assume that he has or hasn't, but with this only being ordered yesterday, I assume this is the very first RO he's got on her, and I'm surprised that it took this long. But I know he's kind of a pacifist in that regard. So I'm glad to see that he's taking some steps to protect himself, honestly. So the next page, let's see. Oh, crap. Give me a second. Okay, so the next page, let's see. I don't know even what's on. I only saw the first page. I just saved all the rest. So I want to see what else it's on here, because it looks like he had to go, he had to put in like a lot of stuff. So the hearing is April 7th at 9 a.m. And this is the beginning. This is what I wanted to read, if you guys want to read. So it's a lot, but I'm definitely interested in seeing what it is, what it says. It says, I was in a dating and intimate relationship with Meredith O'Neill from February 2024 through July of 2025. She began messaging me while I was in jail and began regularly visiting me and sending me videos until my release on February 23rd, 2024. While I was incarcerated, I was extremely lonely and vulnerable, and in hindsight, I feel like she preyed on that vulnerability. Within a few weeks of talking to her, she had already made plans to buy a house together with me and have a baby, despite the fact that I was still married. While I was in jail, it was brought to my attention by a woman named Courtney Healy that this court in Boston, South Boston, issued a 209A order against Meredith in 2018 when she admittedly hacked into her ex-boyfriend Samuel Templin's work email account multiple times and sent his bosses an email pretending to be him, telling them that he no longer wanted to work there. 3 months later, she admittedly hacked into his account again by guessing his password and sent another video of him doing cocaine that he didn't know she had recorded. As a result, he was fired from his job and broke up with her. He ended the relationship, and Meredith continued to harass him for months afterwards by hacking into his Verizon, Facebook, and other social media accounts. She also created a Snapchat account that she used to send pornographic images of him to a new woman he was dating. Oh my God. See, this is one of the, I was just talking about. We don't know what else she did to that guy. Wow. I was petrified that she would do the same to me, and she has done all of that and worse. During our relationship, we broke up several times, but remained in touch before I ended the relationship for good on July 10th. We spoke almost every day, slept at each other's houses. Based on the duration, continuity, and nature of our involvement, this was a substantive dating relationship and qualifies. Sorry. I just lost my spot. This was a substantive dating relationship and qualifies under, okay, the statute, okay, 209A. During our relationship, Meredith became controlling and emotionally abusive. She would frequently accuse me of cheating on her with other women who I was just friends with. She monitored my social media and went through my accounts when I was in the shower, taking pictures of my Facebook messages with other women. Meredith did cocaine in the apartment where her daughter lives, which she admitted in text messages. Oh boy. She asked me to do it with her, and I declined. She also abused alcohol, admitted to me in text messages she had a drinking problem. She often blamed her abusive behavior on alcohol. I did not want to be with Meredith after several months, but I was afraid to leave her after reading her court records and discovering how she treated her last boyfriend who broke up with her. Every time I tried to break up with Meredith, she would manipulate me by pretending to have a panic attack and claiming she couldn't breathe. Other times, she would threaten to post things about me that she had learned during our relationship. These tactics worked and kept me in the relationship longer than I wanted to be. On May 27th, 2025, Meredith threatened that she was going to post sexual things about me online in an attempt to humiliate me. She also mentioned self-harm. In a panic, I called her repeatedly. She would ignore me and then pick up after several calls, hang up, and get me to keep calling her like it was a game to her. I ended up going to her apartment that day, leaving my work early, but left her apartment after she once again threatened me. Oh, Aiden, I'm so sorry. On May 28, 2025, Meredith accused me of cheating on her and demanded to come to my house. I repeatedly told her in text messages not to, and that she was unwelcome there. I told her that I was with my 7-year-old son and that she couldn't come over, but she told me to drop him off with his mother because she was coming anyway. She also claimed that she couldn't breathe without seeing me and told me she didn't want to live without me in an attempt to manipulate me into continuing the relationship. Whew. All right, we're going to the next page. Yes, Jeannie Lynn. Sorry, I'm just checking. No, this was yesterday. Yes, Jeannie Lynn. Turtle Boy had to get an emergency restraining order yesterday. So that is what I'm reading. Like, this is just nuts. Oops, wrong one. Okay. This one, right? Nope. Dang it. I had them in order and now they're not in order because I clicked them out of order. Bear with me a moment. Here we go. I don't know. I didn't listen to the bus stop live. I just saw it on X. So that's why I started my stream late and thought, well, let's go over it real quick because this is the shit. I just don't get it. I don't get this kind of, I don't. Even when I put the psychological things I know and diagnoses together, this insanity is like, and yeah. You're watching it now to find out? Okay. So here's the rest of it. Let's continue real quick because I do want to get into the trial today. Number 10. On the day that I finally ended our relationship for good, Meredith came to my house to pick up her belongings, which I left in the mailbox. I was not home, and she sent me a text message showing a giant gash on her wrist, which appeared to be self-inflicted. She claims that she fell, but I believe that she was trying to garner sympathy to make me feel bad for her in an attempt to prolong the relationship. When I arrived home, Meredith was in my bed crying, and her face was covered in blood. This was extremely unsettling and scary. I attempted to break up with her over 3 hours before she finally accepted it, but wanted to spend the night. I agreed, but told her I did not want to be intimate with her, despite her trying to be intimate with me. Throughout our relationship, Meredith would use coercive control in or to regulate and monitor my activities, communications, and movements. She bought me an Apple Watch for Christmas. She hooked up to my phone while I was at the gym. She read my private messages, which include messages from a woman who sent me images. Yeah. Meredith video recorded my watch with her phone, showing the woman taking off her shirt. She then sent that video to me and several other people without the woman's consent. On multiple occasions, Meredith threatened to post the images of another woman in order to expose me whenever I tried breaking up with her. It kept me in the relationship much longer than I wanted to, as I felt forced to stay. After finding the pictures on my watch, Meredith stole my phone extraction from my bag, which contained all of my phone data up to October 11, 2023. I previously asked her to download the extraction to help with my legal defense, but she couldn't do it and gave it back to me. She admittedly stole the extraction on January 30th, 2025, because she wanted to learn more about the woman. And sent me a video she recorded showing a 2023 conversation in which her and I were discussing a fantasy with a third woman. On multiple occasions, when I attempted to end the relationship, Meredith threatened to post this video showing my discussion of a sexual fantasy with a woman in order to humiliate me and hurt my relationship with that woman we were discussing. Meredith lied to me about having my Apple Watch for 6 months. During that time, I found out that she was reading my messages, monitoring my activity, and had blocked at least 4 women who she found out I had previously messaged, which she discovered while going through my stolen phone extraction. Several weeks ago, Meredith sent out my entire phone extraction to people she knew were adversarial to me. As a result of this, all of my private communications, dating back to 2020, have been published on social media. She is the one who had my phone extraction, which she stole from me during our relationship. Contained inside the phone extraction are pornographic images of me and several other women I was previously in relationships with. Meredith did not obtain their consent or mine when she did this. Additionally, the phone extraction contains privileged communications with my attorneys, Kathleen Fay and Mark Randazza, which have been published on social media as well. The phone extraction also contains my unredacted phone number. As a result of Meredith's reckless decision to release my entire extraction, I have received an increasing amount of harassing calls from unknown numbers, which is a direct result of her disseminating my phone number. Finally, the extraction contained confidential messages from private sources I used for my journalism in covering the Karen Reed case, and those sources have all been doxxed and harassed as a direct result of Meredith's decision to release my entire extraction. On October 14th, 2025, Meredith recorded a conversation between her and I while she was in South Boston and I was in Holden. Both of us were in a 2-party consent state. She later posted the illegal recording on November 28th, 2025, in an attempt to harm me, leading the Holden police. Bear with me. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. Wait 2 seconds. Okay. Sorry. Let's continue. To file a criminal complaint against her for felony wiretapping. A clerk's hearing has been scheduled on November 2023. 2025, Meredith posted a screenshot of an image of me and a woman named Lindsay from a video I previously recorded. This was extremely alarming to me, as I had not sent the video to anyone. However, the video was in my Facebook Messenger, which Meredith had previously admitted to accessing without my consent because she knew my passwords. Throughout our relationship and afterwards, Meredith compelled me to abstain from or engage in specific behaviors and activity, further illustrating her coercive control. On March 4th, 2025, Meredith got drunk and was verbally and mentally abusive to me while I was driving her home from a bar in Canton. During the ride, she told me I was a midget, a loser, that no one likes me, and that I have wrinkles. Wow. Jeez, oh, Pete. She has since admitted to doing this and apologized for it. I told her I didn't want to sleep at her house as a result of that, but she told me I could sleep on the couch. I fell asleep at 1:30, but was awoken by Meredith at 3 a.m., demanding that I go to bed with her. I didn't want to do that, so I tried to leave. However, Meredith had hidden both my key fob and one of my shoes, making it impossible to leave. I begged her to give them back to me so I could leave, but she refused. I found her phone on the couch, had been recording our conversation without my consent, so I began recording for my protection. At 3:51 a.m., Meredith told me she was going to tell the Boston police that I hit her so that my bail would be revoked and I would be sent to jail. At 3:55, she admitted on her video that I never hit her. At 3:59, she said that I had hit her in a group text message that included me and a mutual friend named Deanna. All I wanted to do was leave, but I couldn't because she stole my key fob and shoe, and I was petrified she would file a false police report if I didn't stay in a relationship with her. As a result, I had a panic attack and began crying on the floor. Unbeknownst to me, Meredith was recording me while I was crying on the floor. On November 26, that's supposed to be 2025, not 2026, but Meredith posted the video of me crying on the floor in her apartment, which I didn't know she filmed until she posted it. She did this prior to any sort of online postings from me about her. Prior to this, I only said positive things about her publicly, despite my feelings about her behavior, because I wanted to move on peacefully and protect her image. She has shared this video dozens of times and has been viewed millions of times on social media in an attempt to humiliate and embarrass me. On November 28th, I did a live stream discussing why there was a video of me crying on the ground. I outlined the months and months of mental and verbal abuse I had experienced from Meredith. As a result of me telling the truth about her, Meredith went on a 4-month-long campaign on Twitter defaming me and posting all sorts of private communications in an attempt to harm me. She had posted about me thousands of times, including from several burner accounts. According to IP logins from a forensic expert I have hired, Meredith O'Neill began hacking into my Twitter account in October of 2024. She knew my password after learning it during our relationship. She read every private message sent to me, including, she then messaged that woman's boyfriend to alert her that her and I were communicating in this manner, seriously alarming the woman. She has a history of attacking any woman who she believes is in a new relationship with me. In December, Meredith began to release screenshots of privileged communications between me and my attorney, Mark Betterow and Tim Bradel. I had sent Meredith these screenshots during our relationship as she was part of my legal defense team, and I was keeping her up to date about our legal strategies. Publication of these messages served no purpose except to harm my legal defense and cause problems between me and my attorneys, who blamed me for ever trusting her. Her goal was to get Attorney Betterow to withdraw his counsel because she knew how wrong one. Hold on. God, look at what this woman has done. It just doesn't stop. How upsetting it was to him to have his privileged communications posted on a Twitter account, which has over 14,000 followers. The screenshots were used to ridicule my attorneys, reveal our legal strategy, and humiliate all of us. Meredith often blamed the behavior of other people on me and announced that she would punish me for her actions. Due to the fact that she has 14,000 Twitter followers and was constantly using her platform to attack me, my children, many people began to speak out publicly about her. When they did this, she would announce that if they continued to talk about her, she would continue to release more of my private communications as a way to punish me for their commentary, which she followed through on. Wow. Due to the fact that Meredith worked on my defense team, she had access to impounded discovery materials, including text messages from witnesses. Meredith did an entire show called Unimpound Town when she began to show impounded discovery messages, bragging that she couldn't get in trouble because the protective order only applied to me, meaning Aiden. She said she was doing this in hopes that I would get in trouble for giving them to her. In January 2025, Meredith began releasing private videos. I think that's supposed to be 2026, but private video recordings of my ex-wife, 8-year-old daughter. In one of these videos, it is very disturbing as my daughter is crying hysterically and doesn't want to come to my house. I sent Meredith the videos in June 2024 because I was going through a divorce and looking for advice. Trusted her with this video, and she posted it on the internet. Jeez. In December, Meredith began threatening to post the recording she claimed to have had of me and attorney Mark Betterow. I have no recollection of ever recording Mr. Betterow, so this was confusing and upsetting to both Mr. Betterow and me. Through an intermediary named Jason Broyles, Meredith said she would refrain from posting the alleged recording if I agreed to give in to her demands, which included telling the Holden police to drop a criminal complaint of wiretapping they filed against her, making a public post telling people to leave her alone despite her aggressive online behavior, and demands that I remove any negative posts I had made discussing her abusive behavior. I later found out that no such recording existed, and she was just using it as leverage to get me to drop criminal charges against her for felony wiretapping. Holy shit. On December 13th, 2025, I called Meredith crying and begged her to stop posting privileged communications between me and my attorney. She told me she wouldn't and that I fucked with the wrong person. See? That's what I don't get. I later found out that she illegally recorded the entire phone call again, and she sent them to a friend of hers in Australia named Chris Mahler. That's his name. That's what's his face? Koala, right? Who posted excerpts from the phone call on his Twitter account. Meredith did an entire show, since deleted, monitoring my whereabouts using IP locations on a Twitter account of mine that she admittedly hacked into by guessing my password. She knew my exact locations on certain dates because she frequently hacks into my social media accounts. I have received text messages on 8 separate occasions from unidentified masked phone numbers telling me my exact location when I am out socially. This has left me in constant fear that Meredith is monitoring me. Yep. Meredith posted my financial documents, including an accounting of how much I paid my lawyers and private investigators, while urging people not to donate to my legal defense fund and my contract with Compelling Pictures, which included how much I was being paid for being featured in a documentary and a movie. She obtained some of these documents from me during our relationship. Meredith frequently uses burner accounts on Twitter that she uses to attack people. In December 2025, she used an account called Dragon Besties to post a picture of the house I was renting at the time. Since then, I have bought a new house, and she has used another account called Klaus Baron to post my new address. Oh my God, she already did that? Jesus. This leaves me in constant fear that she will show up. I think that's the last one. I'll hear him. So he says, constantly in fear of her showing up at my house, possibly covered in blood like the day I broke up with her, and do something to hurt me. And that's where my head went with this. Like, I think he's finally worried about something like that. I feel so bad for him. I am in constant fear of Meredith's behavior as she is continuing to threaten, intimidate, harass, and control, coerce, and compel my compliance despite ending the relationship 8 months ago. As a result of her behavior, I am constantly in fear about what she will do next, if she is monitoring my messages and my movement, and if she will come to my house. For that reason, I asked this court for an order of protection so that she stops engaging in this abusive and controlling behavior. I have screenshots and videos of everything referenced in this affidavit that I can provide for the court. Just wow. Didn't go into it much on bus stops, so I'm just listening to this now. No, it's cool, hon. I just wanted to go over it because I wondered if there was any new information, which really there's not. Besides him saying that he's actually worried about her hurting him now. I don't know if he was just being a man, not admitting that earlier when he always said he never worried about her like that. But, this is long overdue. Yeah. We'll see. Knowing him, he probably, if he mentions it at all, it'll just be to appease people to know that, yeah, he did this. And, if Jess Machado posted on Twitter, I'm sure that she had Aiden's permission to do so. I would assume anyway. And so he knows people are going to read it and pretty much know what's in it now. So I don't know. I guess, yeah, we'll definitely see what he talks about tonight. But I bet with him having to put this restraining order, I'm sure he's going to limit what he says about it too. But I'm just guessing. Anyways, guys, we are going to get into the Karen Reed second trial, of course. Starting with opening statements from the annoying Spanky, who goes first, obviously. The closing or the opening statements are about an hour and a half. I haven't even looked at the order of testimony because I'm not going to remember. But we'll start with opening statements, see where we are, and go from there. I am going to put it at 1.25 speed. If anything becomes too fast, please let me know. Here we go.
For the opening statements, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. At 6:04 a.m. on January 29, 2022, the alarm bell sounded in the Canton Fire Department. Firefighter paramedic Timothy Meadows needed that minute. His heart skipped a beat. He raced to his equipment and he picked up his bag, which was meticulous. There was a sign and a signal, and then there was a voice commanding that there was cardiac arrest. The most serious of calls for a firefighter paramedic, that means that a person's heart has stopped. He didn't know who it was, he didn't know where it was. He took his bag, he had just gotten to the station, and he rushed to the ambulance. He was one of the most senior paramedics that morning. Another paramedic, Anthony Flanati, would be running this mission. He jumped in the back of the ambulance, the door shut, and they headed off to 34th Fairview Road. As they drove, firefighter Nuttall could not see anything. He couldn't hear anything other than the engine of the ambulance. He could feel it sliding across the road. It was near blizzard conditions. He calmed himself, he steadied himself. This is what the firefighters and paramedics are trained to do, to focus. And he focused on his task. He looked around the back of the ambulance to make sure all the tools were in place. The ambulance was meticulous as well. This was Anthony Flanati's ambulance, and it was well stocked. He calmed himself and he thought about what was going to happen. What should he be looking for? What is his next steps? He played the scenario through his mind, and very calm was above him. As the car pulled up to 34th Avenue, the ambulance, he stood at the back door, the doors open, and he stepped out into the jungle. He could hear a woman screaming and shrieking, the cold, hard air stomping on his face, and the wind, blizzard conditions swirling around him. You will hear him tell you how he trudged towards those screams in the darkness to snow, and when he got there, he saw 3 women surrounding a man lying, not moving on the ground. He walked up to the man, and he reached down, and he tried to find
Already,
any signs of
Spanky's
life.
going in on the snow.
And he found nothing. And he got up and he walked over to the woman, and he walked over to that defendant, Lee, and he told him that he thinks that man is gone. And then he heard the yell from Anthony Flanati, the chief, and he said, "Come back, let's go." Because you'll learn that in the cold, even if somebody's heart stops, even if they're presumed to have passed, sometimes you can still save a life. So you'll see on a gas can video, you'll hear from testimony, he went back to that man who's John O'Keefe. He went back to him, and that crew, whoever made it up, they did everything they could.
Hey, Maylin.
They got on their knees, they began CPR, and firefighter Nuttall will explain as he knelt over John O'Keefe. He looked up, and the defendant approached him, and you'll see it on the video. Now, he wanted any information. Because when you're trying to say something, you want to know.
Shut up, Spanky. Now it's not shut up, Lally. It's shut up, Spanky. Okay. Maylin, just in case you're interested, I did go over the God, I can't even think straight now. I went over the Turtle Boy Aiden's RO he put out on 5150. That's why we just started opening statements, so.
Are they on drugs, medications? Do they have a heart condition? And he looked up at Miss Reed and he said, "What happened?" And you'll hear her words through firefighter Nuttall. She said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." And it was at that time, through the words of the defendant, that she admitted what she had done that night, that she hit John O'Keefe. Now, those words didn't mean anything to firefighter Nuttall. They weren't in context. They didn't reconcile with the injuries. They didn't help him in his treatment, so he ignored it. Now, firefighter Nuttall is not a police officer. He is not an investigator. He is not a detective. He's a first responder. And so he takes that information. It was useless to him. He continues to work on John O'Keefe, trying to save his life. You'll see the team put him on a stretcher. And when they lift him from the ground, even though there is snow accumulating, underneath John O'Keefe is simply grass, hard ground, frozen. And beneath his body lays his cell phone. They bring him to the ambulance, and while they bring him to the ambulance, you'll see on the videos that other first responders speak to the defendant. One first responder, before night, she will say, "I'll hit him, oh my God, I can't." And then she was interviewed or asked questions for background information, not a criminal investigation, just background to try to help John. And she was asked questions about his background. And during that conversation, you won't hear see the defendant with a person by the name of Gemma Cade and a firefighter McLaughlin. And she tells Firefighter McLaughlin with her first responder, "I didn't." They bring Mr. O'Keefe to the American Hospital, and his body is cold. The doctors work feverishly. They treat him, trying to save him. They try to warm his core. And unfortunately, firefighter Nuttall's first instinct is accurate. John O'Keefe passed. So why are we here today? We are here today because John O'Keefe was killed by the actions and conduct of that defendant, Karen Reed. You will learn through this case, through facts, science, and data, you will learn that on January 29th, 2022.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day, Jeannie Lynn. I don't remember if you were here during that conversation or not. But I agree with you. I talked about how the people that say he redeemed himself with the person that he defended. Like, I'm sorry, this man, in my eyes, can never redeem himself. He's a despicable human being who did this for the money. I don't know, but his statement was absolute bullshit that he made on those steps afterwards, saying that he did this so he wanted to bring fresh eyes to the case and blah blah blah, which is just, because if he really did that, and if he was really such an upstanding guy through and through, he would have taken one look at this case and said, nope, I'm not trying it. And he didn't do that. So sorry, not sorry. I will never believe that he can be redeemed.
When the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe were in front of 34 Fairview Road, all the way to the left
Sorry,
side.
not sorry.
You will learn that Mr. O'Keefe got out of the car. He got out and he stood by the side of the road after an argument with the defendant. That argument, that anger, fueled by heavy intoxication, will learn from the science and data as he stood by the side of the road. The defendant to her SUV drove away. She drove at least 35 feet away.
Well, yeah, I mean, right there's the problem.
Then she stopped. She put the Lexus into neutral.
He's a defense attorney.
And the facts and the science and data will tell you.
When you have to get a defense attorney to prosecute a case, like, that means no other prosecutor would accept the job. I wonder why that is. And he tried the case like a defense lawyer, which is why he is shady as all hell. He looked shady. Everybody looked at him like he was a piece of shit. He didn't even care.
Despite the fact the argument was over, he then put the Lexus into reverse, put the foot on the gas pedal, and began to press, not 25%, not 50%, up to 75% acceleration. The white dusting of snow, the Lexus tires spun backwards. She went backwards at least 70 feet. She clipped John O'Keefe. He fell backwards, hit his head, broke his skull, and then he lay at the corner of Fairview Road, on the ground, lying on top of his cell phone, alone. And then the defendant will later tell that when she left, he didn't look mortally wounded. Yet he was. And she simply drove away. Now, before I tell you about the data and the facts and the science, and I walk you through that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe was a young man, a local kid, very well liked. Well, John O'Keefe is the son of Peggy O'Keefe, John O'Keefe Sr., and the brother of Paul O'Keefe. Grew up in Canton, worked hard, he became a police officer. But what you're going to learn, the fact that he worked as a Boston police officer was just a fraction of his life. It was a small, really unimportant part, because the biggest part of John O'Keefe is he was a family man. Not in the traditional sense. See, John O'Keefe never had biological children.
I just learned how to do a poll.
My sister.
I don't like this poll though, the new way they do it. Why can't you just click on it?
And shortly after, his husband. John O'Keefe was at home. He had to sit by. He saw these two recently orphaned children, and he stepped in and he said he was going to raise them. So he put aside his career, he put aside his job, and he moved in with the children and raised them up. They were his home. They were his passion, his love. He was a new parent, successes, failures, like all parents. And he raised the children with the help of people in the community, with the help of his brother, with the help of his family. And they led a good life. enter Karen Reed. Around COVID, the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe reacquainted, and they started a relationship. And you'll hear that even though the defendant had her own home, she was staying with Mr. O'Keefe a lot, 4, 5, 6 times a week. And to most of the world, it was a pretty good relationship. They spent time together, they did activities with the children together. She helped with driving the children, feeding the children. It was a steady relationship until about the beginning of 2022. And then things began to unravel. There was tension, there was arguments. In fact, just a few days before this incident, you'll hear that Mr. O'Keefe asked her to leave, but she wouldn't. You're going to be able to read text messages of their conversations on January 20, 2022. You will see the tension and the unraveling of the relationship. You will read about the discord between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe. You will see that when he would ignore her calls, they would become incessant. When he would try to push away, she would come closer. You will read those text messages and you will realize that this was the beginning of the end of this relationship. That night, they decided they would go out together. I want to tell you something about dating signs before we get to that night. I mentioned that underneath John's body was a cell phone. A cell phone is an amazing piece of technology. It is like a computer. It carries extraordinary data. And when they found the cell phone, the only container was on that night, they studied the cell phone and released on the remarkable data that people use in this case to find the truth. I want to mention 3 different things you will find in a cell phone that are critical to this case. The first is called location data. Waze we've all heard of, Google Maps. Well, at some point that night, John put his Waze on. And Waze is like a breadcrumb that will show you exactly where the phone goes second by second. It is the strongest, most accurate location data that you can have. And that night, John was using Waze. It also will have healthcare data. Healthcare data will show when somebody is moving. Sometimes it's qualified as flexible, it doesn't necessarily mean somebody's stepping, moving their arms, walking, turning. It doesn't show what direction or how far, but it shows movement of a person. Okay. And the third thing, remarkably, will be that's what in this case, you found a data file on the phone, and it tracks the temperature of the cell phone battery. So that will be critical to your analysis in this case, the temperature of the cell phone battery. And so with that, I want to take you back to the timeline of that night. After the discord, both the defendants and so decided they would meet at a bar called McCarthy's. On McCarthy's, in a local bar, a visitors pending, and people are getting together in a cemetery, and they go to McCarthy's and you see a video of McCarthy's. And you will watch some bonus trophy friends and the selling of alcohol. And you will count 8 vodka drinks that the defendant drank. They arrive at 8:50, they stay till 9:45. You can consume at least 7 of those drinks in less than 2 hours. The last drink, you'll see where they leave the bar, she puts it under, they walk out and they go to another bar to meet other friends called the Waterfall. They reach the Waterfall sometime around 10 p.m. And when they go to the Waterfall, you'll see a video. And when I take celebratory mood, you will see a group of friends of John O'Keefe, many who were friends with John, and you'll see them laughing and happy, enjoying.
Hold on, guys. I don't know what the hell just happened. My YouTube just totally closed. What the heck? Just weird. Sorry, guys.
His friends and the defendant in many of the data. And they spend some time together, did drinking, and they all do a son. And that will be at least the 8th for the 3 hours. You will see from the data not just the cell phone data, but there's some other very important data. And the other piece of data that goes hand in glove with the cell phone is information on the defendant's Lexus vehicle chip, black box in an airplane. So there's something that was that captured a small amount of time. And that was captured in the defendant's Lexus. That black box information with the cell phone data will tell you everything you need to know in this case. It will bring us step by step through the entire night to figure out what's going on. And so they leave the water color, and you'll see that the ignition goes on to the defendant's Lexus. And both John O'Keefe and the defendant in the car decide that they're going to go back to 34th Fairview Road that we talked about earlier. They're going to go there for a get together for one of the homeowners' sons who's having a birthday party. And so as they drive back,
Hey,
they'll
James.
be able to follow them to this location.
How are you?
When they go back to Fairview, they don't know exactly where it is and they get lost. And so John O'Keefe makes a phone call. And the phone call with one of his friends, Jim McCabe. And during that phone call, which the defendant listens to because he's recounted, and trying to get directions, Jim McCabe tells John O'Keefe, it's near Bella's mom's house. We'll learn that Bella, or her mom, is somebody that John had dated before this student. And so as they make their way to Fairview, you will see there's a road that comes down like a loop from the beach to Fairview. They take a wrong turn on the loop, and then they do a three-point turn on the driveway to see the exact precise driveway they turn into, because some type of acceleration movement triggered that black box.
Run.
And that's important. You get 7 minutes before the collision. And you'll see from the ways exactly where the car was. You'll see from the black box, the event of the three-point turn in the driveway.
I mean, all
and then
things
they turn down
considered,
Fairview before they get there. At
I'm okay.
12:23, a truck is coming the other way.
Still don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm here with you guys today, and I'm okay.
The Lexus, because they were going to the same house. The truck stopped at the driveway, and the
Thanks for
Lexus,
asking.
the defendant's car will appear because of the waves, to be counted second to second, never stops. It rolls very slowly all the way to the end of the yard in the corner where it's the yard of South Pole. And they reach that location at 12:34:33. And they're in the car and they stay there. The truck waits, they speak to somebody in the house, comes out, the person goes back in the house and they're about 5 minutes. We're now down to 2 minutes before the collision. The check leaves, and now it's just the defendant and John. And while they're waiting outside, 12:27, John gets a text from Jim McCabe, park behind us in the driveway. 12:29, text again, are you coming in? You'll hear that Jim McCabe and others look out the window and see the defendant's Lexus in front of the flagpole at the far end. It's snowy, it's dark, it's windy, they're waiting. You will know that John O'Keefe was in that car, that Lexus, and didn't move because his healthcare data is not moving. It's not moving until 12:31:56. At 12:31:56, if he didn't move, he will have 20 seconds before he falls. 20 seconds. He gets out of the car, the Lexus, and in that 20 seconds, you'll hear that user initiated. He looks at the phone, at the text message he generates. There's no 12:32:09. Close to the phone the last time. Will be the last time he uses that phone. From the waterfront bar, you see it. And at that time, 12:32:09 last user, he has 7 more seconds to move before he lies dormant the rest of the night. We'll also have the information from the defendant's Lexus black box. The box run differently than 30-second cameras, but it's right in the heart of that time. And you will see through the data at that time, when he makes his last movements with the phone, is when her car leaves 34 feet at least, stops, and then shoots into reverse with the tire spinning right towards him. Right where he got out. You'll know they're arguing because the next morning she tells the firefighter, I'm sad because our last moments of the fight. She drives away, and they said, he's made later statements that when she left, he didn't look mortally wounded. He lies on the ground on top of his phone, light dusting the snow now picking up. And he's just there. It's 12:37. Now, when he's in the car, before he gets to Fairview, the battery temperature of that phone is 77 degrees. 77 degrees in the one car. Now that he's been outside the car for 5 minutes, it drops to 72 degrees. She drives to his house. She makes a phone call at 12:33 after she, and you will hear the anger and rage in her voice. She leaves a message. John, I fucking hate you. You will hear the similar. And she leaves that message. He lies on the side of the road. He gets another text message. It's on the page. 12:45. Battery temperature 61 degrees. So he gets almost 40 calls from the defendant that night. His phone rings, but never rings. You'll hear from an expert that the light never initiates the healthcare data never moves. John alone was only beginning his phone. At 12:53, cell phone drops to almost 60 degrees. 12:59, the defendant leaves another message on John's phone. Now, she hasn't spoken to anybody. Nobody has spoken to her, but her message. You'll learn the message says, John, nobody knows where you are. And this is where the plot in the cover-up begins. The evidence will make clear that she knew he was there. She did not call 911. She did not go back to him. She did not leave an anonymous tip. She left. The night wears on. It's now 1:07. Battery temperature 55 degrees. 1:14, she calls her mother. No answer. 1:14:53.
I don't know about you guys, but I literally do not remember any of his opening statement. It's like watching it from the, like for the first time.
The way to learn that she admits to falling asleep last night. But then she wakes. 5 o'clock, she is frantic. She wakes up John's niece and she is unintelligible. She is yelling, she's screaming, she asks her niece to call Jen McCabe. She calls Jen McCabe, and you'll hear Jen McCabe recount. I repeat, she wakes up and she hears, Jen, Jen, Jen. Screaming John's name. John's dead. Hangs up the phone. Jen McCabe. Called her. And then she, what's going on? And she told, well, I left him at the waterfall. At the beginning of the Jen McCabe, I left him at the waterfall. Then called back and said, I'm sorry, well, Brian, you did leave at the waterfall. She hangs up. She then minutes later calls another person, Terry Roberts, a friend of John O'Keefe. Someone who's not friends with the defendant, but they know because they helped raise the kids and they interacted. She had nothing to do with the night before. Wasn't at the bars. Was home with her family. She calls her and says, I think John got hit by a car. And he's dead. No Terry with that information, calls 911. She calls hospitals. You can hear her voice. She's concerned. Not him. And then she gets another call from the defendant. And she tells the defendant, come to my house. I will help you look for him. And the defendant says, I was so drunk last night, I don't remember anything. Waiting for her to arrive, she runs, doesn't arrive. Instead, the defendant goes to Jen McCabe's house. Terry Roberts, the other friend, then goes to Jen McCabe's house, pulls behind the car. And when she does, she runs loose, and she can hear the defendant say, my taillight's broken, my taillight's broken. And she looks, and the snow packed in the back taillight, she can see a piece of the taillight missing. The defendant desperately wants to go to 34th Fairview Road. Terry Roberts gets out and says, we're going to go back to John's house. He's in the house and you didn't see him. So both cars, driven by Terry Roberts and then Jen McCabe, with the defendant, go back to John O'Keefe's house. You'll see the ring video. We see them go into the house and they look around, and you'll hear about the woman, Jen and Terry, enlisted into this house. Look for John O'Keefe. They cannot find him. And then when Terry Roberts comes into a room, she sees him looking, the defendant simply standing there, staring at the wall. At that point, the defendant insists they're going to go back to Fairview Road. They decide to take one car. Terry Roberts is taking charge. She's going to drive. They leave. This leaves Lexus and John O'Keefe's driveway. And they drive back quickly and Fairview Road with the prison light condition. It is dark. They can barely see a thing. And when they get close to the edge of 34th Fairview, you hear the defendant start to scream, there he is. Both women look and they can't see anything. She starts kicking the door. The defendant's kicking the door. Let me out. Terry Roberts starts the car and runs around and she sees the defendant run exactly to where John O'Keefe is in the darkness. That's where she left him. Terry gets out of the car, starts to walk towards where the defendant is, and she sees the defendant lying on a body. She can't tell who it is, but the face is still covered with snow. And she comes over and looks, and she wipes off the snow from John O'Keefe's face. She realizes he's one of her best friends in the world, is John O'Keefe. And she starts trying to do first aid. They start to move him, and coincidentally at 6:06, when they start to move him, the cold air hits that cell phone battery, it drops from 50 to 43 degrees. And they try, Jen McCabe calls 911. And that's when a police officer arrives, firefighter not all is crew. And when they lift him, that cell phone battery is shut down to 37 degrees. Terry Roberts picks it up and puts it in her pocket, and it immediately starts to warm as she moves and helps get data. Shoulder movement starts again. At that point, nobody knows what happened. The Canton Police Department come. You can see the police cars and cruisers. They're not sure, so they look in the area where John's body is behind glass on the bar. Their body, they find blood spots, they find lots of parts and plastic containers. They don't know what they're looking for at this point. There's no information. They don't believe or know that there's a crime. They just know that John O'Keefe somehow ended up again with the rolling glass in the room. And so that morning, you can see the work of the police department try to uncover a little bit around his body to see what they can find, which is very little. And then Terry Roberts goes and picks up Peggy O'Keefe.
Oh, look at Lally in the background. Staring at
They go to the Good Samaritan Hospital, and Terry Roberts is walking. Peggy O'Keefe is going to go see her son, her husband. And she walks down the hall. Karen Reed is also in the hospital.
I gotta rewind that. Hold on. This is too funny. Because I literally didn't know who Lally was.
And Terry Roberts is walking.
You know, before I watched Trial 2. Look at this. Look at him. Look at poor Lally in the background. Like, damn. He wants to smoke. Yeah, sad to think that over all the months, all I remember is a ham sandwich from him. All I remember is his stupid voice. His voice literally drove me up a wall. And the sweatshirt, which they should have been granted a mistrial. Sorry, but I mean, glad it worked out. But in all honesty, that was ridiculous. Lally wants to smoke. That's too funny. Just look at him. He looks like a kid in the corner has been punished. Like, when am I allowed to get up?
They go to the Good Samaritan Hospital, and Terry Roberts is walking. Peggy O'Keefe is going to go see her son, her husband. And she walks down the hall. Karen Reed is also in the hospital. See, there was some reports of maybe she was upset or suicidal, so they sectioned her. They put her in for evaluation to make sure she was safe. You'll hear Peggy O'Keefe tell her she walked down the hall and goes to her son. The defendant was screaming, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" And she walked by Karen. She stopped and she said, "Karen, what happened?" And you'll hear that Karen was excited and yelling, "Is he dead?" She lost her excitement. Let's go. Doesn't say a word. Peggy pays respects to her son, and then she has to go back home because she has to tell the children. Now, while she's out, the police department send an officer to the house and make sure the children are safe because they're alone if they're home. And when the officer pulls in, he doesn't notice anything. He looks in the dash cam because the dash cam did notice something. That tail light has a big missing piece to it. They can't find the children. Ultimately, Peggy comes home. Her friends are taking him, and they bring the nephew home, and he is distraught. And then Peggy hears a knock on the door. It is the defendant and her father. They want to come in. They come in, open doors, and they ask them to go upstairs to John's room. And she's busy consoling her grandson. They go upstairs, they're upstairs for about 15 minutes. They come down, and quickly they leave. Now they got there from the defendant's father, drove his wife and the father to that house. But when they leave, they take two cars. They take the last to get the tail light with them back to the defendant's father's house.
What's her
We
fault?
learned that with the police solved some of the information, they learned about the tail light, they learned information that she had told people next day. They went down to see her, and on their way down, they decided they would get a warrant to take the Lexus. When they get down to Dighton, where the car is, you'll hear from Trooper Buchanan. He took a look.
Oh, Maylin, I've been watching that with Baker. Freaking hilarious.
They took the car, they brought it back to Buchanan. And so, what you learn from the friend of Buchanan is public science data is that not only was the cell phone left behind, but also around that area, molten taillight was littered around Ronald Reed's body. Littered around that area. When they got to the hospital, they noticed there was a shoe missing. As time went by, someone held it, the investigation to find his shoe on a little berm on the border between the street and the grass. They learned days later when they did a plant excavation, they found his hat frozen into the ground. Ultimately, they would find over the course of 10 days, it was still melted almost all empty pieces of that broken tail light in that area. His hat, the sneaker, the glass. Brandon defendant left Mr. O'Keefe behind to look for something with Mr. O'Keefe or trace evidence. The door in the back of her Lexus, around the taillight area, he John's DNA and stuck to the side, grasping one last piece of trauma.
Hey, Steven.
Now, John O'Keefe fell backwards his head after he was hit by the car. And you're going to hear from a very renowned doctor and neurosurgeon who's treated thousands and thousands of patients. And the wound on the back of the head, where he fell backwards, on the cracked skull, is called a facial fracture. It created an injury called countercrute. After he was hit by a car and fell backwards and hit his head on that hard rock ground, remember there's no snow, it's just a dust in his point. The back of his brain hits the back of his skull and bounces up. So it bounces up with these marks showing that impact. And this neurosurgeon will tell you, treated thousands of patients, that this injury, with reasonable degree of medical certainty, is countercrute caused by falling backwards in the head. When the medical examiner for the state looked at it, they generally said one plus family had been determined. So we fought through the now neurosurgeon does exactly. We also been hit in the back of the substance and said, well, does not work for the state police or local police. He was hired to take a look at this case and the data. They will come in and explain to you exactly what I talked about. How the data from that black box coincides with the cell phone and the movements of the car, the moments before, during, and after the defendant struck O'Keefe with the car.
No.
Now,
Time is in, it shows the kindergarten
three charges
experiment.
against the defendant in this case. The first one, second degree murder. When most people hear murder, they instantly think shooting somebody, stabbing somebody, killing, deliberate premeditation. I want to instruct you on the law. I'm not going to step on my word, but I can tell you clearly, we are not going to try to prove that Kennedy tried to kill John O'Keefe. We're not going to try to prove that she intended or wanted to get. That's not second degree murder. What we will prove to you is she engaged in an intentional act, driving back at him at that speed in the store, in the doctor's, knowing that he had just gotten out of her Lexus. She intended that act, which would cause a plain and strong likelihood of death. That's what we will prove to you, second degree murder. Also, operating under the influence of alcohol, and then finally, we will prove to you that she drove her Lexus recklessly. She hit John O'Keefe, and because she hit him and he fell back, she caused his death. The third charge is being seen act knowingly causing death. Again, she hit Mr. O'Keefe with a car. She knew he was injured. She left him
Look
behind.
at Lally.
This case will come down to the science and the data. The science and the data that cell phone is the best of the stories. It doesn't suffer from intoxication, it doesn't suffer from memory loss, it doesn't suffer from emotion, tired. It is facts, it is data. And that facts and data will lead you to the truth in this case. But after Ms. Reed was charged, she began with the lawyers a campaign.
Literally
A
looks
campaign
like
to
a
make
little
public
kid.
statements. 120, Nightline, Bus 25, the documentary. And we had an opportunity to get many of the statements in the footage, and we're going to show much of you. And her statements to you will confirm what you already know from the science and data, what you will already conclude from the facts independent about what she did that night. Her word simply confirmed that your judgment is sound. And you're going to hear from her own lips and many of her statements, her admissions to extraordinary intoxications, her admissions to driving the Lexus, her admissions to being angry at Dawn that night. And I dare say her admissions that she told or to play for you, clip one. You're going to hear the first statements that she made after she said.
I mean, I didn't think I hit him, but I clipped him. Could have taunted me and incapacitated him. He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see, but could I have done something that knocked him out and in his drunkenness and in the cold, didn't come true then?
This would have been the moment you dropped him off in the party.
Yeah, would have had to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I simply ask you to follow the evidence, follow the science, follow the data. Ignore speculation, surmise, conjecture. Stay true to the evidence, it will lead you to the truth. Then on January 29, 2022, a very intoxicated defendant was angry and arguing about the relationship with John O'Keefe. And after the fight was over, she left.
Hey,
She
Shell.
brought the fight back to him in the form of her SUV. She clipped him, he fell backwards, he broke his head, and then this man, who had a lifetime of help, was left at the corner of that yard, left to die with no help. The facts, the data, and the evidence will bring you the truth in the defendant's own words from everything you've already concluded.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Could I have just a moment to readjust?
Sure, they record up.
May I, Your Honor? The evidence in this case will establish above everything else 3 points. There was no collision with John O'Keefe. There was no collision. There was no collision. John O'Keefe did not die from being hit by a vehicle, period. The facts will show that. The evidence will show that. The data will show that. The science will show that. And the experts will tell you that. You'll learn that the Commonwealth has pinned its entire case on a brazen and a flawed assertion that is untethered, unconnected to the facts and to the evidence. And their assertion is contrary to science.
Just in time for
Because at the end of the day,
Jackson.
folks, there was no collision with John O'Keefe. So how did we end up here? How does Karen Reed end up sitting in that chair on trial for something, for an event that literally never happened? Well, the evidence is going to explain it. And it can be summed up in the following text message at the very beginning of this investigation. A text message of a now fired Massachusetts state police officer named Michael Proctor. He was the lead investigator on this case, and he was talking about a fellow officer, a fellow cop who owned the property where John O'Keefe's body was found. Text message with a buddy. Question, is the homeowner going to catch any shit? Answer, nope. He's a Boston cop too. That quote defines the lack of integrity of the Commonwealth's entire case, its entire investigation, and this prosecution. During the course of this trial, you'll learn much more about Mr. Proctor, why he said that, and what it really means. What you'll see and hear in this courtroom in the coming weeks is not just a story of a tragic loss. And make no mistake, John O'Keefe's death is and was a tragic and tragic loss. But the story you'll hear is about an investigation that was riddled with errors from the beginning, a rush to judgment, conflicted and corrupted from the start, corrupted by bias, corrupted by incompetence, and corrupted by deceit. Finally, it was corrupted by a deliberate effort to avoid and to cover up the very truth that you are seeking. You'll find when you hear the evidence that the Commonwealth's case is the literal definition of reasonable doubt. They won't be able to talk their way out of it. They won't be able to explain their way out of it. They won't be able to excuse their way out of it. And they can't meet their extreme burden of proof, which the court will tell you is beyond any and all reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. Members of the jury, Karen Reed found John O'Keefe dead on the front lawn of a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, at 6 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Picture the scene. Blood-curdling screams, ambulances, emergency lights on, fire engines, ladder trucks, paramedics, patrol vehicles, patrol cruisers, police officers, first responders, firefighters, all swarming all over Brian Albert's lawn, literally feet under his bedroom window. Yet Brian Albert, a sworn peace officer, a first responder himself, never came outside. Never went outside to see what the chaos was about, never went outside to see if he could assist a man in need, never walked outside his house to see if he could help a fallen fellow officer on his own front lawn. More shockingly, you'll learn that lead investigator for the Massachusetts police, Michael Proctor, never set foot inside Brian Albert's house that day. Never engaged in any investigation inside that house that day, even though a party with much alcohol had just occurred in that house, and even though a Boston police officer was found dead or dying just mere feet from the front door on that lawn. He never secured the crime scene, never separated and secured witnesses. He never properly collected evidence. He never secured the evidence. He never searched for signs of a struggle inside or outside the home. He never properly canvassed the neighborhood. Michael Proctor never did any of these things, even though fellow officers of Michael Proctor's actually mentioned, in their words, not mine, that it looked like John O'Keefe may have been, quote, in a fight. You'll have questions about that conduct. During the course of this trial, you'll find that the Commonwealth will not have answers. You'll see from the evidence in this case that this case carries a malignancy. one that has spread through the investigation, it spread through the prosecution from the very start, from the jump. A cancer that cannot be cut out, a cancer that cannot be cured. And that cancer has a name. His name is Michael Proctor. Now, you didn't hear his name in the prosecution's opening statement. Not once. And I suspect that was probably by design. But make no mistake about it. The evidence will show in this case that Michael Proctor is the very definition of the Commonwealth's case.
I can't figure out how to do the regular poll where you can click the yes or no answers. For some reason, I only have this option. So when you type 1 or no in the chat, it automatically accumulates your answer into the poll. So the question is, do you hate Spanky's voice? If you do, you put 1 and it will register a yes. If you don't, you hit 2 and it will register a no. I still have to look up how to do the other kind of polls. This one was just, there you go. See, 1. There you go. Thanks, guys.
And he's also their Achilles heel. He was the lead investigator on the case officer, the architect of the entire prosecution. You'll learn there's not a single part of this case, folks, not a single part that he didn't touch, that he didn't direct, that he didn't orchestrate personally. Every single bit of it has his fingerprints on it. You'll learn that Michael Proctor was a longtime family friend of the Alberts. And he's been disgraced by his own agency, not by us, by the Massachusetts State Police. Investigated, suspended, and fired. The evidence will show that Massachusetts State Police found him guilty, found Michael Proctor guilty of bringing dishonor to the department for his conduct, not in some other case, not in some tangential case, in this case. The investigation of Karen Reed. Conduct that included bias in favor of his friends, the all-powerful Albert family, and bias against my client, Miss Reed, the outsider. Do you have any idea how hard it is for a state trooper to get fired? The evidence is going to show that Michael Proctor earned it, every bit of it. You'll hear that within hours of a Boston police officer being found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, who had investigated exactly nothing up to this point, right at the beginning, made an early pronouncement that Brian Albert himself was not going to, quote, catch any shit, end quote. And that was for one reason and one reason only. He's a Boston cop. The evidence will show that Michael Proctor made this statement in a text conversation with his high school buddies, a text he never thought would see the light of day, certainly never thought we would get a hold of. And when he thought no one was looking, he actually said the quiet part out loud. He's a cop too. We'll give him a pass. You'll learn that in Michael Proctor's world, rank has its privileges. The evidence will show that's privileges that you don't get and I don't get. But apparently a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, and his friends, they do get. You'll learn that in Michael Proctor's world, he didn't care about finding the truth. In his world, his priority was to protect the brotherhood, to protect that blue wall, to protect his friends who were at the Alberts house that night. I want to take a step back, if I could, and spend the next few minutes talking a little bit more detail about what the actual facts in this case will show, not based on speculation, not based on surmise, not based on guesswork or conjecture, but the actual true facts that you will learn through the course of this trial. On January 28th, 2022, it was a Friday night. John and Karen had made plans to meet up with friends for drinks. It was a happy and normal night for them. They were affectionate, they were loving, they were in good spirits, nothing out of the ordinary. They started at a local watering hole called C.F. McCarthy's. You've heard that name before and you'll hear it again. And eventually they made their way over to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, another bar where they ended up. When they got to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, the Albert family was already there, already heavily drinking. You'll learn that this was no ordinary family, the Alberts. The Albert family was a well-known Canton family. Some might even describe them as a very powerful Canton family. Brian Albert was there at the Waterfall. You'll hear that he's a longtime Boston police officer. His wife, Nicole Albert, was there with him. His brother, Chris Albert, a powerful Canton politician. He sits on the select board. The select board actually governs the police department, the Canton PD. He was there. His wife, Julie Albert, was there. Their daughter, Caitlin Albert, was there. His sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, was there. Her husband, Matt McKay, was also there. They were all there drinking before John and before Karen ever arrived. You'll learn that a man by the name of Brian Higgins, also a law enforcement officer and longtime friend, longtime pal of Brian Albert, he was also there. And the two of them, the two Brians, had been drinking most of the night together. You'll see video footage from the waterfall, which will show you that Karen and John were happy. They were affectionate. They were caring. They were loving. Just business as usual, out on a date on a Friday night. But that exact same video footage which lead investigator Michael Proctor plainly chose to ignore that video footage. It paints a very different picture of Brian Higgins. You'll learn that Higgins had romantic designs for Karen. That becomes important. Brian Higgins had engaged Karen in flirtatious texts, but days earlier, she had put a stop to it. She had ghosted him, in common parlance. In other words, just ignored him. The evidence will show that the first time he saw her and was in her presence after being rejected by her was when she walked into the Waterfall Bar and Grill along with her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. At 11:58 p.m., just minutes before John ultimately arrived at the Albert residence, you'll see a video at the Waterfall of an unsettling interaction, troubling interaction between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe. And unlike the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, in this case, you won't ignore that evidence. As the bar was closing around 12 midnight, the Alberts invited everybody back to their house for a get-together to just keep the night going. And you'll learn that Karen and John ultimately pulled up to the house. They got out of the SUV to make sure they had the right address. You see, neither John nor Karen had ever been to 34 Fairview. They weren't even sure they were at the right address. And the evidence will establish that John got out of the SUV and went into the house. Let me say that again. The facts unequivocally, the data, the science, the witnesses will all unequivocally establish that John O'Keefe went into the Albert home that night. Eyewitnesses and forensic data will establish that fact. When he didn't come back out, you'll learn that Karen grew increasingly frustrated. She got upset. She was left alone in a car in the cold, in the middle of the night, with the car idling. John had gone into the house. She expected him to come right back out. And when he didn't, seconds turned into minutes, and minutes started to clock away. She left John a voicemail, then another voicemail, voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, text messages. But he was unresponsive. He didn't pick up a single call. He didn't respond to a single text. The longer he didn't respond, the more upset she got. The Commonwealth will intimate, as they already have in their opening statement, that these voicemails are evidence that the two were fighting. The actual evidence in this case, however, will show the exact opposite. You'll hear that Karen was very agitated. You'll hear some voicemails where she's swearing. You'll hear voicemails where she calls them names. There's name calling. But you'll also hear the context of those voicemails. And every single one of those voicemails was left for John after he failed to come back out of the house, after he failed to respond to her voicemails and to her texts.
Hi, Lori.
Karen believed John had just left her sitting there, grabbed a beer, was partying with his friends. The evidence will actually show that John and Karen never had a crossword, not a single crossword that entire evening before he left that SUV and went inside the house. And you will learn what Karen had absolutely no way of knowing at the time. It wasn't that he wouldn't respond to her. It's that he couldn't respond to her. And the evidence will show you why. Let's talk about that. We'll introduce you to a doctor named Elizabeth Lopesada, a renowned forensic pathologist, a medical examiner, and a professor at Brown University. She will tell you that the injury to the back of John's head, first of all, was immediately incapacitating. And that has meaning. At the moment he suffered that fatal head injury, he couldn't walk, talk, grab his phone, cry for help, nothing. He was completely incapacitated, completely unconscious from the moment he suffered that injury. He was completely still and incapable of interacting with anyone or anything. But the doctor will tell you something more, and just as important. She'll tell you that John O'Keefe did not suffer from hypothermia, as the Commonwealth will undoubtedly allege. His body showed no signs of it. No frostbite, no cold-induced injuries to his organs, no damage based on cold or frost. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else, somewhere warmer, and his body had to have been moved out into the cold. And that's where, ultimately at 6 a.m.,
Thanks, James.
Karen found him the next morning. You will learn that John did not have a single injury consistent with being hit by a car. Let me say that again. The evidence will establish that John did not suffer a single injury on his body consistent with having been hit by a car, not one. You'll learn that John's torso, his ribs, his chest, his arms, his hips, his legs, his knees, his ankles, his feet, all of them, no broken bones, no fractures, no contusions, no torn ligaments, no internal injuries, not even a bruise. Nothing consistent with a car accident, despite the Commonwealth's contention that he was slammed into by a 6,000-pound SUV. Not a bruise. Dr. Laposada will tell you with medical certainty that, in fact, John was not struck by a vehicle. Medically and scientifically, he could not have been struck by a vehicle. Therefore, as I said, there was no collision. She will tell you that the patterned abrasions on John's right arm, the patterned abrasions you see over my left shoulder, they're not the result of being struck by a car or a taillight. You'll take one look at these injuries and you'll agree with Dr. Laposada. The evidence will show that these injuries are from an animal, like a large dog, like the large dog that was inside the Albert house that night. You'll learn that Brian Albert has actually admitted that his large dog, the family dog, is, quote, not good with strangers. And of course, John, never having been to the house before, was a stranger that night. You'll also learn that oddly, very oddly, after having their family pet for 7 years, a short time after this incident, the Alberts got rid of that dog. They called it rehoming her, but she was gone. Dr. Laposada will also tell you that the injury to John's head was not the result of falling backward onto a flat lawn, cold or otherwise. Rather, Dr. Laposada will tell you with medical certainty that the injury pattern to his scalp was produced by an impact from a raised or ledged surface, a surface that does not exist on Brian Albert's front lawn where John was found. The medical evidence will establish no hypothermia, no injuries from a car strike, no collision with a motor vehicle. And forensic analysis of John's cell phone, Mr. Brennan mentioned that in his opening statement. The Commonwealth's own expert will ultimately support the exact facts that I just told you, including the temperature data. John O'Keefe was injured someplace warmer, and he was moved. That alone is reasonable doubt, but there's much more. You'll also learn that there were many people at that after-hours gathering at Brian Albert's house who would have left by the front door just feet from where John O'Keefe's body would have ultimately been, had he actually been there, right after 12:30 a.m., which is what the Commonwealth's claim is. There were nearly a dozen people who walked out that front door directly adjacent to the precise spot where John O'Keefe would have been lying. Not a single person, not one, not a single person saw a 6'2", 216-pound man laying sprawled in the front lawn in dark clothing on a light white dusting of snow. Not one. Then the evidence will also show that every one of those same people drove by that same spot, not walked by it, drove by it to leave the house, and still not one of them saw John laying in the yard when they left between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning. But you know who else you'll find never saw a body on that lawn? The snowplow driver, a completely independent witness charged with plowing the streets in Canton that night. You'll hear that Michael Proctor, oh, he's not done yet, Mr. Proctor. You'll hear that Michael Proctor wrote a report where he claimed that Fairview had not been plowed that night. You'll learn that that was completely false. That was a lie. Michael Proctor did not want any more witnesses. He didn't want the truth. And he falsely claimed that the road was never plowed. You'll learn that he wouldn't look for the plow driver, but we did. And we found, and we'll introduce you to, Brian Loughran. He plowed Fairview that night, and what he's going to tell you is that there was no body on that lawn at 2:30 in the morning. You'll learn that Brian Loughran passed by 34 Fairview, traveling right next to Brian Albert's front yard, and at 2:30 a.m., John O'Keefe was not there. But you'll see that the plow driver also provides some other troubling information, troubling testimony for the Commonwealth. You'll learn that after making that pass at 2:30 a.m., he showed up with his plow an hour later. He stopped at the entrance of Fairview. He was looking up Fairview to decide whether or not to plow it, but he saw an obstruction. At 3:30 a.m., he looked down the street, and in the very spot precisely where Karen would later find John's body laying at 6 a.m., there was a car parked in front of it, a Ford Edge. You're going to ask yourself, who's moving a car at 3:30 in the morning into a blizzard on the side of the road? You'll learn that Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, intentionally ignored this fact as well. He did no investigation to find out who owned a Ford Edge, but again, we did. And the evidence will establish that Ford Edge happens to be a favorite model of the Albert family. More than one Albert owned a Ford Edge at the time. You'll learn that those facts will add to the mounting and the overwhelming evidence that there was no collision and John O'Keefe's body was moved onto that lawn. You'll find that this is yet additional reasonable doubt in the case. You'll be introduced to science and physics, even from the Commonwealth's own experts. That science will establish that Karen Reed's SUV was not damaged by hitting a pedestrian, and conversely, John O'Keefe's injuries did not come from being struck by a vehicle. The Commonwealth mentioned triggering events, but what you'll actually learn from the experts, some of them the Commonwealth's own experts, is that a triggering event is not evidence of an accident. It does not evidence a collision. That's why we're here, a collision. And there's no evidence of one, zero. You'll also find that those exact sort of triggering events that the Commonwealth will rely on are relatively commonplace on Karen's SUV, and none of them are associated with a claim of a collision. Folks, the science will not lie, the physics cannot lie. And that science will tell you with certainty there was no collision with John O'Keefe. You'll add that to that rising mountain of reasonable doubt. I want to take you back to the night in question, January 29th, for just a few minutes. Remember, Karen had gone home after dropping off John and John walking to the house. While Karen was asleep at home with John's 13-year-old niece, what were the people who had been at Brian Albert's house that night? What were they doing? While she slept, what you'll find and what the evidence will show is that they were extremely busy. You'll learn that after a long night of heavy drinking, Brian Higgins left the Albert residence, but he didn't drive home. Rather, he drove over to the Canton Police Department, where he kept an office at about 1:25 a.m. Not a Canton police officer, but he kept an office there. Why go back to his office at 1:25 a.m.? Why go back to the Canton Police Department at 1:25 in the morning on the night of a blizzard? You'll learn that while there, Higgins made a call at 1:30 a.m. Higgins will later deny that he made that call. You'll find that curious. And his explanation for that late night visit to Canton PD, you'll find that it changes nearly every time he's asked about it. You'll learn that after everyone left Brian Albert's house, Brian Albert actually claimed he had no contact with anybody else except his wife. No contact. Until he woke up the next morning. So he says. Then you'll learn that that too is a complete lie. His phone records establish that he placed a call to none other than Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. shortly after Higgins completed that late night visit over to Canton PD. You'll wonder, what did they possibly need to talk about at 2:22 a.m. that night? The evidence will establish that Brian Albert called Brian Higgins first. Brian Albert then disconnected that call when Higgins didn't answer it. Seconds later, Brian Higgins returned the call. Brian Albert then did answer that call. They spoke for 22 full seconds, had a conversation, then they both hung up their respective phones. You'll learn that when they were asked about these calls and conversations, both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins lied about it. Both of them. They said they never had a call with each other. But then ultimately, when they were confronted with their own cell phone records and they could no longer deny the calls, they were asked independently, explain yourself. And they both came up with the exact same explanation, a butt dial. The evidence will make you question, why did Albert and Higgins speak at 2:22 a.m. and why did they both try to cover up that phone call? You'll also learn after this incident and within days of one another, both Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, both police officers, both trained investigators, got rid of their phones. Both of them. And what else you'll learn Brian Albert got rid of? Shortly after this incident, Brian Albert got rid of his house, the whole thing. Just sold it. His childhood home, a home that had been in the Albert family for generations. He literally sold it mere months after this incident. Dog rehomed, phones destroyed, house sold. You'll learn that all these things happened shortly after the incident where John O'Keefe was found unresponsive and dying in Brian Albert's front lawn. And you'll also learn that Michael Proctor looked the other way. He did not investigate any of what I'm telling you. He pre-selected Karen Reed from the start, and he ignored everything and everyone else. Let's get back to what was happening with the others while Karen slept. What you'll learn during this trial is that Brian Albert's sister-in-law, you've heard her name before, Jennifer McCabe. She was at the waterfall that night, and she was over at the Albert's house that evening as well. She left the after-hours gathering about 2 a.m., a little before 2 a.m., got home around 2 a.m. And you'll learn that according to the Commonwealth's own evidence from a forensic software program called Physical Analyzer made by Celebrite, it's considered the gold standard for forensic tools. You'll learn that a Google search was discovered on Jennifer McCabe's phone. A Google search that Michael Proctor and his investigators never revealed to us. but we found anyway. A Google search that was timestamped, according to their own data, at 2:27 a.m. 5 minutes after that 2:22 a.m. call that Higgins and Albert denied having. And that Google search on Jennifer McCabe's phone read, "Hoslong to die in cold." Hoslong to die in cold. Now, she misspelled the first word. Hos is supposed to be how, but the meaning's the same. How long does it take to die in the cold? Timestamped 2:27. And then that search was also noted by the same Celebrite program as having been deleted. The evidence will force you to ask, why is there a search on her phone? Why is it logged at 2:27 a.m.? When the Commonwealth claims that she first learned of John's death and where his body was hours later at 6 a.m. So what you'll learn is that while Karen slept, here's what was actually happening by some other very busy bees. 1:25 a.m., Brian Higgins makes an unexpected visit to Canton PD. 1:30 a.m., he makes a phone call that he later denies ever making. At 2:22 a.m., Brian Higgins and Brian Albert talk. They both deny and lie about having made that phone call. 2:27 a.m., 5 minutes later, a Google search appears on Jennifer McCabe's phone, Hoslong to die in cold, hours before John's body was ever discovered. A Google search she denies making, and that she later, or at least it was later logged as deleted. Meanwhile, at 2:30 a.m., the plow driver confirms that O'Keefe's body was not on the lawn of Brian Albert's house, not at 2:30 in the morning. And at 3:30 in the morning, that area was obstructed by a Ford Edge like the one the Albert family liked to own. The evidence will show in the meantime, Karen dozed in and out of a fitful sleep for the rest of the night, only to awaken just before 5 a.m. And that's when she realized, in a panic, John had never come home. And you'll see, it wasn't like John to not come home. That morning, you'll see and hear evidence that Karen's emotions had morphed. It'd gone from frustration and anger, which you'll hear in the voicemails, to abject fear. Fear that something bad had happened. The evidence will establish by this time, Karen was panic-stricken. She had a feeling something was very, very wrong. She was unable to get a hold of John. Karen went to go look for him. She got in her Lexus and she backed up to leave her garage at One Meadows. You'll hear a lot about that address, One Meadows. That was John's house where Karen was staying. She backed out of the garage, and during the course of the trial, you'll hear that she actually struck another car with that right rear taillight. During the course of this trial, the Commonwealth is going to desperately claim that Karen Reed's taillight was actually damaged by hitting John O'Keefe. They'll have no evidence of it, mind you, none. But they'll make the claim. We'll show you a video of exactly how that taillight was originally damaged, or exactly what happened at 5:07 in the morning. The facts will show that it was damaged in John's own driveway at 5:07 when Karen backed up and made contact with another car in the driveway. This is 5 hours after she dropped John off and he went into the Albert residence. As a result, the taillight was minimally cracked, but it wasn't completely shattered or damaged or broken. And that's the condition of the SUV when Michael Proctor got a hold of it. That becomes important. You'll hear from an independent police officer, an eyewitness to the damage on that SUV, someone not connected to Michael Proctor or under his control. And he'll tell you that he saw the taillight damaged before it was in Michael Proctor's possession, but it was not completely shattered. And you won't have to speculate how that taillight got cracked originally. You'll see it for yourself. It's on video. You'll learn that part of the reason that Karen's Lexus hit that car at One Meadows is because she backed out looking for him at a time when she was absolutely panic-stricken and grief-stricken. Where was John? Why hadn't he come home? What had happened to him? Is he hurt? Is he passed out somewhere? Her mind was reeling. The evidence will establish she wasn't giving anything away. Everything was on the table. What could have happened to John? You'll learn that when she woke up and he still wasn't home, she was just racking her brain for what could have happened to him, and she was worried about possibly the worst. He had gotten out of the car. He'd walked to the house. She was confused. And later, when she found him at 6 a.m. on the lawn, where she last saw him going toward the house, her mind started reeling, oh my God, did a plow hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? What could have happened to him? And that video clip that you saw, out of context, when she said the words, he did not look like he was mortally wounded, she's not talking about at midnight. She's talking about at 6 a.m. when she found him. That's what she was talking about. Your job will be to make sure that the evidence isn't presented to you too cute by half. She was saying all those things. Did a plow hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? She was saying that to herself and to other people. And the Commonwealth, very obviously, will try to seize on that panic and twist this into some admission. But here's the actual truth. That's not a confession. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Could a plow have hit him? That's a person trying to make sense of an unexplainable circumstance, a natural concern of a bereaved significant other, a woman desperately trying to piece together what could have happened on this tragic night. John didn't come home. And the evidence will show that Karen Reed never said, "I hit him." Never. Not in the background of the 911 recording, not on any dash cam video, not on any audio, not on any police body cam, not to a first responder. It's never mentioned in a single report. It's never reported in a single report from January 29th, not by one person, because it never happened. The evidence will show that the evidence will show that there were at least 13 members of law enforcement or first responders and 2 civilian witnesses that were intently focused on what was happening at that scene. They were all over the lawn. They were all over Karen. Officer Sarath, Mullaney, Good, Lank, EMT Nuttall, Flamati, Kelly, Walsh, Woodbury, Whitley, Becker, Roby, McLaughlin, Carrie Roberts, Jennifer McCabe. They were all there watching and listening. On January 29th, when John O'Keefe was found, not one first responder reported having heard Karen Reed say the words, "I hit him." Not one. Not one civilian reported having heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him." The facts will show that the first time this improved statement was ever claimed to have been made was some 24 hours later by a single EMT in an interview. Now listen to this, in an interview coordinated by a Canton police detective named Kevin Albert, Brian Albert's brother. And remember, Chris Albert, the other brother, is a board selectman to whom the Canton Police Department reports. And what's more, you'll learn that Katie McLaughlin, that's the EMT, that's the single EMT, the first person to have claimed to have heard this unrecorded and unreported statement, is years long, close personal friends with a young woman named Caitlin Albert. You heard that right. It's Brian Albert's daughter. During the course of this trial, you'll become familiar with and you'll realize that the Alberts are indeed a powerful and indeed an influential family. And that will mean something. You'll learn that there are other major problems with the prosecution's case. The evidence will establish that Michael Proctor himself, the lead investigator and architect of this entire case, has a long-standing and personal relationship with the Albert family. Yes, that same Albert family. His sister was close friends with Julie Albert. He personally sat at head tables at weddings, or at a head table at weddings with the Albert family. He entrusted the Alberts with babysitting his own children. You heard that correctly. And yet he was the lead detective assigned to investigate the circumstances of a Boston police officer laying dead on the Alberts' front lawn. That's not just bias, you'll learn. That's not just coincidence. That, folks, is corruption. And you'll see how far it went. Michael Proctor was alone with all the critical evidence in this case, along with Karen Reed's phone, along with John's phone, along with video footage, along with the taillight material, alone when he claimed to recover evidence from 34 Fairview. He wrote the search warrants, he transported the evidence, he secured it, he submitted it, he did it all. That's Michael Proctor. And he did it without any reasonable oversight. You'll see during the trial that he intentionally lied and fabricated evidence during the course of this investigation. He lied in reports, warrants, he lied under oath. He lied about the time that he actually secured Karen Reed's vehicle. Why? Why would he lie about that? The evidence will give you the answer. He lied because he did not want it revealed that he had access to that vehicle and he had access to that taillight before any taillight fragments were found at 34 Fairview. Appreciate that. He had access to the vehicle before a single piece of taillight material was ever found at the scene. You'll find that there were 2 searches. The first and second search found 0.
It
Nothing.
is, James.
Nothing around John's body.
About
Nothing in the
time.
street. Not one piece of taillight fragment. But once Michael Proctor had that SUV and had the taillight in his custody and control, suddenly items started magically showing up. And not just a few items. 46 pieces of bright red taillight laying in the snow, supposedly found in the exact same spot that was searched not once, but twice by independent officers. Came up with 0. To be clear, you'll learn that before Michael Proctor had access to that taillight, not a single piece was ever recovered at 34 Fairview. That will become vitally, vitally important. And what about those shards of plastic, by the way? What about this DNA that the Commonwealth mentioned? They're going to try to dazzle you with talk of DNA because it sounds so scientific. DNA was on the taillight, but you'll learn that there was no DNA on the actual shards that they claim came in contact with John's arm. None. There was no blood, no tissue, no skin, no DNA on a single shard of plastic that they claim cut deep abrasions into John's arm, the arm that you saw overhead. The DNA that was actually found, the actual science will show it was found outside of the taillight housing where anyone with access to that vehicle would have touched. And it wasn't just one male's DNA. In that exact same sample, there were 3 men found, John and 2 unidentified males. So unless the Commonwealth is going to shift their theory that that SUV hit 3 men that night, their entire theory falls apart. And speaking of DNA, the evidence will further establish that John O'Keefe's shoe, the one that he was wearing when he was found, was sampled. And that DNA revealed 5, count them, 5 unidentified males. Recall that the evidence will establish independently that John was injured someplace warmer and had to be moved onto that lawn. 5 unidentified males touching that shoe. You'll also learn that you are not the first person, not the first to hear about the Commonwealth's theory of this case, that John was hit by an SUV. That's their theory. The Commonwealth presented this exact same claim to their own medical examiner, a woman by the name of Dr. Irini Scorti-Bello. And you'll learn that after reviewing what's called a law enforcement accident notifier, with law enforcement's theory of the collision written in it, defined in it, after conducting the autopsy herself, after examining John's injuries in detail, she refused to conclude that John's death was a homicide based on the Commonwealth's presentation and their theory. That's right. The Commonwealth's own medical examiner will not deem the manner of death in this case, a homicide. She won't do it. But they're nonetheless back again trying to present the exact same theory to you in this trial. Again, the evidence will show that that is reasonable doubt. Throughout this trial, the Commonwealth will try to convince you of paranormal events, phones calling themselves, messages deleting themselves, Google searches made and then unmade, evidence magically appearing and evidence magically disappearing. But all that smoke and all those mirrors will not ever reach their burden. Because that's what this case is ultimately about. It's about the Commonwealth's burden of proof. You'll learn that during the trial, the Commonwealth bears the highest burden known to our justice system. They must prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And you'll learn that moral certainty means the highest level of certainty known in human affairs. It's not a small thing. They're not going to be able to do that. Not when every piece of this case was handled by a disgraced investigator with a motive to protect his friends, not when the physical evidence contradicts their very theory, not when their own medical examiner won't call this case a homicide based on the exact theory that they're presenting to you, not when the conduct of those in the House and the utter lack of investigation speaks volumes about those who actually have something to hide. By the end of this trial, you'll conclude that Karen Reed is not guilty of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. There was no collision. She's the victim of a botched and biased and corrupted investigation that was never about the truth, folks. It was about preserving loyalty. You'll find that this case is the very definition of reasonable doubt. And at the end of this trial, we'll ask you to return the only verdicts, all 3 of them, that are consistent with the evidence, the science, the truth, and justice. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Folks, why don't we take our morning recess?
I'm sorry, that's just as powerful watching it the second time. So freaking amazing. All right, so apparently Chris Albert's last select board meeting is tonight. I agree with you, James. It will be a no-show.
Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record?
Morning, Your Honor. Adam Lally for the Commonwealth.
Morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hank Brennan for the Commonwealth.
Morning, Mr. Brennan.
Morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Let me see. Oops. Bear with me a moment. So this is preliminary jury instructions. I think we'll skip that. First witness is Timothy Nuttall.
Microphone down a little bit closer to you, please.
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
Yes, bravo, Mr. Jackson. I mean, I'm sorry, it was definitely powerful. I remember watching it the first time. Oh my God, and it's just as powerful watching it again. Who's slacking, everyone? Hit the like button. Thank you. All right, here we go. Timothy Nuttall. I'll be right back, guys.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
So my name is Timothy Nuttall. I'm 28 years old. I've been a firefighter paramedic for ever since I graduated high school. I graduated in 2015. I took my EMT class and got my certification while I was actually still in high school. From there, I moved on to the BLS transfer side of EMS. There's 911 EMS, and then there's transfer, which is basically back and forth from hospital to hospital. I was brand new and very young, so I started on the transfer side, kind of learning the job. I started primarily in the city of Chelsea, Everett, Malden, Somerville, up there. And then after a little while, I got my feet wet in the 911 side. So I was running BLS 911 in those cities as well. And then I progressed on to become a paramedic. So
Why do you have such an interest in being a first responder at a young age?
I kind of grew up in a first responder household. My father was a firefighter in a local town. So we spent kind of a significant amount of time at the station when he was on shift. It's just kind of how I grew up, kind of learning the ins and outs of public safety. That's just kind of how I came to be interested in the profession, and then I took it from there. So
I want to take us back just a little bit. When you first became interested in training to be a first responder, did you share with us your first training was as an EMT?
yes, sir.
Can you share a little bit with the jury what that entails?
So to become an EMT, there are two sides of EMS, and then there are two sides of providers. There's EMT basic, and then there's paramedic. To answer your question, sir, to start as an EMT, it's about a 4-month process. You take classes. I believe mine was Tuesday, Thursday, every other Saturday. Learning just anatomy and physiology, basic pharmacology, and kind of how medications interact with the body and different disease processes. From there, you start learning basic interventions, backboarding, C-collars.
As part of your work in learning to be an EMT, you active in the field?
The initial training is, like I said, that's mostly classroom based, but once you sit your national written tests and you're able to pass all that and pass practical, then you're able to progress into the field.
And did you succeed through the EMT training?
Yes, sir.
At that point, did you decide you wanted more training? You want to proceed through the profession?
Yes, sir. So after a little while, I worked for about a year and a half in the field and decided that I genuinely enjoyed the work that I was doing. I then made the decision to progress to the paramedic level. That's a significantly more challenging academic portion. And
Can you briefly share with us a little bit of the training that you needed to complete to be a paramedic?
yes, paramedic training is about, I would say, generally takes people about 2 years to complete. There's about 1 year of classroom. It delves far deeper into not only diseases, but how they interact with multiple body systems, multiple different treatment modalities that we can pursue, multiple different interventions, a whole host of medications, far more medications than a BLS. As a paramedic, I have a much wider range of drugs that I would be able to select to treat different patients.
As you worked through your training and got this experience, did you ultimately become employed by the Canton Fire Department?
Yes, sir.
What did they hire you as?
They hired me as a firefighter paramedic.
And so you were both a firefighter and a paramedic.
Yes, sir.
Does the Canton Police Department, in their units, do they include paramedics and firefighters in the same division?
The Canton Police Department? Or
I
Canton
mean,
Fire?
sorry, the Canton Fire Department.
Canton Fire Department, the vast majority of the employees of the Canton Fire Department are paramedics. I believe there are I want to say 5 EMTs, but now as a requirement to remain employed by the Canton Fire Department, you have to become and maintain a paramedic certification.
So when you would go to work as a firefighter or paramedic, was it always the same, or did you get assigned as a firefighter one night and a paramedic a different night?
So we would cross-man trucks. We were always fire suppression personnel, but we were also cross-trained as paramedics. So for example, if a fire call were to come in the town of Canton and I was assigned to ambulance 1 for the day, I would take all my equipment off ambulance 1 and I would transfer it to ladder 1. And then we would take ladder 1 to the fire call and operate as fire suppression personnel. If a medical call were to come in, I'm assigned again to ambulance 1. Then we take on the role as EMS. I take my paramedic skills and put them to work in the town on ambulance 1.
Let me ask you one more background question about how the Canton Fire Department works. When there's a call, an emergency call, is an ambulance sent with other vehicles or alone to the call?
Yes, sir. It's typically the engine of that district and the ambulance of that district. Depending on call volume, that can change. But if all is not to use the word quiet, it's kind of a taboo word, but if all is everybody's in quarters and there's a dispatch in District 1, it'll be Canton Engine 3 and Canton Ambulance 1, and they go as a unit together.
Mr. Nuttall, I want you to take us back, if you would, to the early morning hours of January 22nd, 2022. I want you to bring us a little bit before 6 a.m. Do you remember what you were doing?
Yes, sir. So that particular morning, I arrived at work earlier than I normally do. There was inclement weather that morning. So I left earlier than normal just to get in before the roadways got particularly difficult travel and to relieve anybody that may need to get out if they needed to get home before the roads got particularly bad. I arrived just before 6 a.m. I was walking in. I was assigned to ambulance 1 for that oncoming 24. I was scheduled to be there at 8 a.m.
Could you share with us a little bit about how the weather was as you arrived around 6 a.m.?
It wasn't great. I was driving. It's about a 35-minute ride for me to get to Canton. The roads were starting to they weren't great. They had been treated, but they weren't pristine. The wind was starting to pick up. The snow was starting to come down a little heavier, which is the reason that I left at the time I did.
And so I may have misspoke. January 29th, 2022, that morning, around 6:04, did you hear a tone or did you hear an alarm?
So the tones went off right as I entered the building.
Tell us what a tone is.
So the tone is the emergency alert tone. In the town of Canton, we have 3. We have 1 for fire, we have 1 for investigation, and we have 1 for EMS. The EMS tones went off and the lights came on. Whenever there's the tones go off, the lights come on as well. I was just walking into the building when the tones went off and the lights came on.
And is there information that accompanies the tone, information about the call that needs response?
Yes. So after the tones had cleared, there's an overhead dispatch, which is our dispatch center, communicates to us before we get in the trucks and on the air responding. Basic nature of the call. In that particular instance, we were dispatched to an unresponsive male and a snowbank with no real further information to follow up on.
So what do you do?
So as I said, I arrived pretty early that morning. But hearing that dispatch and that nature of the call, those typically tend to be more involved, both personnel-wise and work-wise. The crew that was working that morning was getting on the truck, and it was firefighter paramedic Anthony Flamati and firefighter EMT Matt Kelly. Matt Kelly has since become a paramedic, but at the time he was an EMT. So off the bat, that crew, not to say that they were at a disadvantage, but paramedic Flamati was the only paramedic on that ambulance.
What did you do?
So I made the decision. I checked with the shift commander, and I jumped on ambulance 1 to just give a second set of hands as being a paramedic myself, just being able to hopefully help if there was any advanced interventions that needed to be done or needed to be performed.
What happened?
Just a second set of hands.
What happens next?
So I got in the back of the truck. I was actually still in civilian clothing at the time because I had just walked in the door. So I got in the back of ambulance 1 patient compartment. The other 2 gentlemen were up front driving to the scene. I actually had to don my turnout gear because again I was in civilian clothing. I wasn't quite ready to go, so I had to put all my structural turnout gear on and then my Canton Fire jacket. Once I was sufficiently dressed for the call, I started prepping all the gear that we might need for a call such as that, for an unresponsive male in the snow. In this case, it was our first aid bag, our airway bag, and our cardiac monitor. Everything was all together. They're all in 3 separate bags. But on the way there, I just got in. I didn't know how the night had gone. So I just took a real quick look at everything just to make sure everything was there and everything was exactly how it needed to be. So I was able to just grab all 3 bags, put them on my person, and get ready to, as soon as the ambulance was on scene, just step off and go to work.
Not knowing much information about what you're going to confront, what goes through your mind as you prepare before you get off the ambulance?
Just basic scenarios. I mean, again, unresponsive male in the snow could mean several things. Not having much to go off on the dispatch was, it left much to be desired in terms of what we might need. So in gathering all the equipment together, it can kind of cover all the major bases, if you will, in terms of what we were expecting to meet once we got on scene.
How was your focus before you get off the ambulance?
I was ready to go. A dispatch like that, any unresponsive male in the snow, it can kind of up the level because you just don't know what you're walking into. You know, it could be anything.
In the back of the ambulance, you can't see outside. Could you tell anything about the weather conditions based on the way the ambulance was moving?
Again, being in the back, as you noted, it just seemed to be taking a little bit longer than normal. I really had no visibility at all. Like I said, I was in the patient compartment. It's very limited visibility in the back, and it's limited visibility. There's like a peephole that's maybe 1.5 by 1.5 to kind of peek.
So here we go about
but
the snow.
again, I was so busy getting everything together, I really didn't notice, but I did note it took a little bit longer. We were going not slow, but we were going cautiously.
When the ambulance finally stopped and the doors open, tell the jury what you see.
So as I mentioned, I had the 2 bags and the cardiac monitor. So 3 pieces of equipment with me. And I stepped out of the back of the side of the truck. There's a back compartment, or a back door and a side door. I stepped out of the side door. And I immediately noted the wind had picked up and the snow seemed to be heavier. And I could hear like a distant screaming off in the distance. Wasn't exactly sure where it was coming from.
What was the visibility like?
It wasn't great. It was still dark out. The sun had not come up yet. The snow was coming down, as I said, heavily. And it wasn't great all around.
Was it cold?
It was cold. Yes, sir.
And so when you hear the screams, what do you do next?
I started making my way kind of towards the sound, following the sounds. I couldn't see anybody yet. So I just kind of followed the sounds. And then once I was able to get around the side of the truck, that's when I was able to see a group of 3 individuals with Canton police. And I started making my way over to them to see where the patient might be located and what was going on.
As you get closer, tell us what you see.
So as we approached the scene, as I said, there were 3 individuals and Canton police were on scene as well. And then there was what appeared to be a human figure laying supine in the snow. I'd say about 6 to 8 feet, kind of where the sidewalk met the front lawn of a residence.
What does supine mean?
So he was laying on his back.
Okay.
From there, I made my way directly over to that individual and started checking for signs of life.
How do you check? You get close? You get down on the ground?
Yep. So I knelt right at his head. Typically, to check for any signs of life, it's just as you see in TV or anything like that. You check the carotid pulse, and you check for any signs of breathing or anything like that.
Where's the carotid pulse?
So the carotid pulse will be right in the neck. Like just real quick, 2 seconds. You can check either side. They're on both sides. Those are the strongest pulses that you can grab quickly. So I just real quick went right to that gentleman. Like I said, I looked for any signs of breathing. I found none. I checked a carotid pulse, and I found none.
How is his skin to the touch?
He was very cold to the touch.
He wasn't warm?
No.
So after you touched his cold skin and you felt the carotid artery? Is that?
Yes, sir. Carotid artery.
Did you come to any initial quick assessments or conclusions in your mind?
So I found, like I said, I checked for signs of life, the carotid, the signs of breathing. I found none. From there, we had ascertained that there was no signs of life. As I was checking that, the other 2 individuals on the ambulance came and met me, and they began doing the same thing just to check. I mean, sometimes you can look and you can miss. So the other paramedic, Anthony Flamati, started checking my work, and then we kind of went from there. But I found no signs of life in my initial.
So firefighter paramedic Flamati arrived to this person after you did?
Yes, sir. I was the first one to actually put hands on the individual and check for signs of life.
Did you later learn the name of this man?
I did.
And what was that?
John O'Keefe.
After you found no signs of life for John O'Keefe, did you get up and go to speak to anybody?
I did. So as being a second set of hands on the call, it's really not my call, like in terms of treatment modalities and how we want to progress. So after I found no signs of life, I kind of got up to kind of look around real quick. I went over to the individuals, the 3 individuals that were there, and just said, "Hey, I just have found no signs of life. We're gonna see the next steps." And as I was saying that, that was when Anthony Flamati, who is the lead paramedic on this, made the decision. This is a workable cardiac arrest.
Let me ask you 2 questions. The first is, as a paramedic firefighter, are there times when you're the lead paramedic on a call?
Yes, sir.
And so it changes call by call, but this one was firefighter or paramedic Flamati's lead.
Correct. He was the lead paramedic on this call.
There are other times when you're the lead and firefighter or paramedic Flamati is on your crew and you lead?
Yes, sir. So we typically switch off. We'll do one, and then once my rotation is complete, we'll do the next one. So it's patient for patient, typically.
When firefighter paramedic Flamati called you back and said it was a workable situation, can you explain to the jury what that means?
Yes. So in medicine, there is a term that is, you're not dead until you're warm and dead. Meaning your core body temperature has to be within normal limits for it to be considered a futile attempt at resuscitation. Noting that, Tony, the other paramedic, Tony Flamati, realized that this gentleman was very cold to the touch and that this was now a hypothermic cardiac arrest, or a cardiac arrest in a hypothermic setting, which means as providers, we have a duty to initiate life-saving measures, CPR, ventilation, and continue those efforts until we get him to a hospital and a physician is able to take over and they're able to monitor his core body temperature for a certain amount of time.
When I asked you about a term you used, you said a hypothermic situation. As a firefighter paramedic treating a patient at the scene, you're not diagnosing hypothermia, are you?
No, sir.
So you're not making a medical diagnosis. You're just saying it's a hypothermic situation because of why?
Just because of the conditions. He was extremely cold to the touch and he was in the elements. We didn't know how long. So taking the fact that he is extremely cold to the touch and he had been outside for an unknown amount of time, that quantifies it to us as a hypothermic arrest or a cardiac arrest in a hypothermic setting.
But is there anything about Mr. O'Keefe's fingers or hands or his face that give you any indication if he had been there just recently or had been there for a while?
His fingers were quite cold. They were not well perfused at all. They were very, very.
I don't know. What does not perfuse mean?
Sorry, did not appear to have been any blood flow at all. Just because he was, again, presumably being outside, his fingers were very, very white. They were very stiff, which can be signs of hypothermia and frostbite. And again, touching the neck. So typically when you get cold, you kind of work back from your extremities in. So again, I noted his fingers were quite cold. Also, when I checked his carotid, his neck felt quite cold as well. That just kind of tipped us back further down the road of a hypothermic cardiac arrest.
I see. When firefighter Flamati called you back,
Yep.
Where did you go exactly?
So when I was told that this is what we're doing, I turned around and I went right back to where I previously knelt, which was right at Mr. O'Keefe's head. And then I took over the ventilation aspect of a cardiac arrest. So I was in charge of the airway. So I began giving him positive pressure ventilations with bag valve mask, which is just a glorified balloon that you can push oxygen through and down into your respiratory tract to get oxygen moving. While I was doing that, I believe firefighter EMT Kelly had begun CPR.
So is this fair to say it's a team effort,
Yes, sir.
a coordinated effort?
Very much so.
And depending on where you're placed, whether in the back of the ambulance or driving or leading, does everybody have an important role to play?
Yes. Yeah, we work in conjunction with each other. Typically, the most well-defined roles in a cardiac arrest in EMS is your airway monitor, which is myself in this situation, and then your cardiac and medication administration, which is that would be Anthony Flamati, that would be Tony. Just because of my position at the head, I just took over the ventilation aspect, and that was where I remained throughout the call.
You said you went back to try to help Mr. O'Keefe, and you were giving helping at the airway. Do you have to actually get on the ground to do that?
Yes, sir. I was kneeling at his head.
While you were kneeling at his head, well, let me ask you a more of a background question. Is it helpful to get information about the history of the person when you're trying to treat them, when you happen upon a scene and you don't know the history?
Yes, sir. Very much. Getting information on medications, history, and allergies is our top priorities in any call, not even this call, just really any your run-of-the-mill fall or chest pain. That's typically the first questions that we ask. What medications are you on? What medical history do you have? Do you have any allergies? The medical history is important because if you've had heart attacks in the past, or just using a generalized example, if you've had heart attacks in the past, does this feel like a previous heart attack? It kind of gives us something to go off of.
As you were nailing, I want you to take us to that moment. As you're nailing, trying to help Mr. O'Keefe, did you have a chance at any point to look up?
I did.
And when you looked up, when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe, can you tell us who you saw?
I saw a middle-aged middle-aged female with blood on her face. And I, real quick, as I was in the process of providing ventilations, I said, do you know this person?
The person that you looked up and saw that was standing over you with blood on her face, do you recognize that person in this courtroom?
Yes, sir.
With the court's permission, sir, could you point out that person that you looked up and saw?
In between Mr. Jackson or next to Mr. Jackson.
So when you looked up and saw that person and asked about any background, what did she say to you?
I hit him.
How clearly do you remember her words saying to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
I remember it very distinctly.
You've been to a lot of calls over the years and since.
Yes, sir.
Would you say hundreds or thousands?
Thousands.
Do you remember all of them?
I remember aspects of various calls, but not all of them, no.
Do some stand out more than others?
Yes, sir.
Did this particular moment stand out more as compared to your typical or most calls that you've been to?
It did, just because of the setting. I mean, it was the weather, it was the unknown factors, and it was the attempting to try and get information and not really being able to glean anything from that.
After the defendant said to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, did you ask any follow-up questions?
I really didn't get a chance to, because following that, the individual just kind of walked away, or just kind of went in a different direction. I wasn't able to ask any follow-up questions.
Have you ever received any police training?
No, sir.
Are you a police officer?
No, sir.
When you're helping a patient, do you have any interest in detective work?
No, sir.
Do you have any interest in investigating potential crimes?
At that time, in this particular instance, because I was at the airway, that is a pretty critical aspect of a cardiac arrest. I was sat there. I couldn't get up and kind of follow up on that at all. I was there doing that ventilation.
Is it your job to investigate cases, or simply to get information to help treatment?
Just the information.
When you go out as a firefighter paramedic, do you have a purposeful cause?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
To save lives.
Is that your only focus?
In this instance, it was attempting to restore circulation and breathing.
At some point with your colleagues, did you lift Mr. O'Keefe from the ground?
We did.
When you lift him, what do you put him on?
So we put him on, it's called a scoop stretcher. It's basically just a hard plastic moving device with some seatbelts on it, just to get the patient up and onto the stretcher. And then from there, we can move from the stretcher to the ambulance.
After you lift him to the stretcher, tell us what happens next.
So we put Mr. O'Keefe on the scoop stretcher and we were able to get him onto the stretcher itself and then off to the ambulance. From there, I maintained my role as the airway individual on this call. So we made our way to the ambulance. I got in the tech seat, which is directly behind where the stretcher locks in. So I had access to the airway again. I was continuing to provide positive pressure ventilations to Mr. O'Keefe, and we had put in an OPA as well, which is just a plastic hook, if you will. It just keeps the tongue from falling back into the airway so we can continue to provide positive pressure ventilations. Once we got him in the truck and we continued that effort, we set up a suction system and we prepared to intubate Mr. O'Keefe. We prepared a suction system just because as I was ventilating outside of the ambulance, there were some secretions in the airway that I could see, and you could kind of hear it as you go to squeeze in breaths into the individual. You can kind of hear the secretions kind of getting like bubbly and stuff like that. So we knew we were going to need to suction him. So we got him in the truck. We really quickly suctioned him, and then we were able to intubate him successfully to definitively give him an advanced airway and give him better ventilations, get more oxygen into his system.
Now, you mentioned that he wasn't warm. He was very cold.
No, he was still very cold.
What does the team do to try to assist with that?
The most basic thing that we did, we turned the heat on as high as it would go. We also stripped all of his clothing off, just getting all of that wet clothing off of him. I didn't really have a role in that particular part of it just because once you're on the airway, that is kind of yours. Nobody can breathe for him. So every time I squeeze that bag, he gets a breath. So I'm kind of tied to that airway for the duration of the call.
So when your colleagues are stripping the clothes off him, is your attention on the clothes or more on the airway in your job?
No, I'm maintaining the airway. If an endotracheal tube is dislodged for whatever reason, it is typically more difficult to get one in. So the integrity of that tube staying where it is and not being dislodged, that is another key aspect of airway management.
As you're doing that, do you notice what any of your colleagues are doing to help?
Like I said, they were working on clothing removal. I believe they were also getting intravenous and intraosseous access on this individual to begin medication administration. But again, I was quite focused on that airway, just making sure that it was maintained and we didn't lose any tube. We didn't lose any end-tidal CO2, which is just another monitoring device that we use to confirm that tube is in place.
How quickly do you get to leave the scene and start moving towards the hospital?
I honestly couldn't give you an accurate estimate. It didn't seem to be out of the ordinary realm, though. We were able to move within the flow.
In addition to Mr. Keefe being very cold, did you notice any other injuries on him?
So I noted that he had a hematoma right above his right eye.
Could you explain to us what that is?
Yep, it's just, for lack of a better term, it's just a big egg. He had a pretty good bump over his eye.
And you said his right eye.
Yes, sir.
Did you know how that hematoma was caused?
No, sir.
No idea?
No.
In addition to the hematoma above his right eye, what other injuries did you see?
There were also several scratches on his right arm, just below his shoulder and traveling down his right humerus. They terminated right about his right elbow, just about.
Those scratches, have you also described them as abrasions?
Yes, sir.
Is there any difference in your mind, difference between scratches and abrasions?
Nope. These were they were deep and they were not bleeding, but they were notably deep.
Did you ever describe it as furrows?
I did.
And in describing those scratches, do you have any idea how they were caused?
No, sir.
And did you notice any other injuries on Mr. O'Keefe?
No, sir. Those were kind of the only ones that we noted. As I mentioned, we suctioned a little bit of blood out of the back of his airway as well. I believe it was blood, mucus, and saliva. But those were the extent of the injuries that I was able to note.
Did you notice anything about the back of his head?
Actually, yes, I did. I apologize. There seemed to be a little bit of matted blood around in his hair around there. Really didn't see anything too obvious at the time. He was also placed in a cervical collar as well, following intubation, and that was kind of there just to maintain his cervical spine. But there was, like I said, there was noted to be a little bit of dry blood on the back of his head.
At some point, did you finally make your way with Mr. O'Keefe to the Good Samaritan Hospital?
Yes, sir.
And just share with us what happens when we get there.
So after we got there, we handed off care to Good Samaritan Medical's physicians and ER nurses. We were able to give a report to the physician of just basic what we've done, what we've given for medications. In my case, what he was intubated with and how he was being ventilated, how well he was being ventilated. And any other further pertinent information. Typically, we noted that Tony was the lead paramedic, so that is typically his. He kind of holds the room for a minute when we get in there and gives a big rundown, and then we back off and let Good Samaritan take over.
When the defendant told you that she hit him, did that have any significance to you?
No, sir.
Did it reconcile with the injuries that you saw before you that Mr. O'Keefe was suffering from?
No, sir.
And so at that point, was that information insignificant in light and perspective of your care? Okay. What role did that information play in your care after the defendant told you she hit him? How did that contribute or not contribute to what you were doing?
It really didn't help at the time. Again, I wasn't able to chase anything down from that. I just kind of took it, noted it, and moved on with my aspect of the cardiac arrest.
Have you had an opportunity at any point to see any video of that morning taken from any source, police car, dash cam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce a video stream.
So this will be in evidence. There are agreements with some of the evidence already?
I believe there's no objection, but I don't want to speak for the defense.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you can show it.
And for the record, if I may note, this is Cruiser 683 Stream 2. I'm sorry. It is Cruiser 683 Stream 2. I'm going to ask to play a portion of it that's relevant to Mr. Nuttall. Ms. Gillum, if you would please move to 6:11 a.m. Please stop the video. Mr. Nuttall, do you see the red lights reflecting on the left?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what those red lights are?
Presumably, those would be ambulance 1.
Yeah, so not what you presume. Do you know what they are, sir?
And those are the lights for ambulance 1.
Do you see the weather conditions as it's depicted on this video?
Yes, sir.
Oh, as you stood outside, was it same or different to how it appears on this video?
That is the same.
When you look to the left, you see a straight line about an inch or two from the left of the screen. Do you know what that item is?
Sorry, sir. Repeat the question.
If you look to the left of the screen, you'll see a straight item from the bottom halfway up the picture. Do you know what that item is?
I believe that's a flagpole, sir.
Do you see a little bit of movement of bodies near that flagpole?
At the present time, no.
Okay. Could we continue to play, please?
Yep, there they are.
Could you stop, please? Did you see the first person in line now behind the person in front of the person with the blue hat?
I'm sorry, sir. Can you back it up like 10 seconds?
Certainly. Keep going, please. Do you know who that person is?
I believe that's me, sir.
Okay. Could you please continue? Is this your first assessment?
Yeah. This is ascertaining any signs of life or breathing.
Is that you approaching?
Yes, sir.
Could you stop, please? After informing your return, is that after firefighter Flamati called you?
So right after that, when I turned around, that was when Tony said, "Hey, we're working this."
Okay. Please continue. Stop, please. And do you see a person come over to where you are?
Yes, sir.
Is it at that point or another moment when the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
It was right there, sir.
Could you continue, please? Can you stop for a moment? There's no voices or noises from people coming through that audio. When you were there that night throughout the event, was it silent or were people speaking? Did you hear people speaking?
There was, as I noted when I got out of the truck, there was quite a bit of screaming. It was quite chaotic. The wind was also a factor, but there were people around. They were speaking within themselves too, but there was screaming, there was wind, and there was different side conversations as well.
And when you were working on Mr. O'Keefe, were you having conversations with your colleagues?
Yes, sir.
They're not picked up on the audio?
No, sir.
Please continue. So you still at the flagpole?
Yes, sir. I'm kneeling at the head of the patient.
Money to your body. So freaking stupid. I think he's just a liar.
Are you included in that group of first responders?
I am not, sir. I have actually exited to the side with the bags. I believe I'm entering the ambulance at this point.
Okay. Thank you. We can conclude the viewing. With the court's permission, I'd like to approach and show a few exhibits to Mr. Nuttall. They've been shown to the defense.
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I show you a photograph?
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, sir. Those are the scratches on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Does that appear the same as when you saw his arm that morning, or is there any differences? And if there's any differences, can you share them with us?
That appears how they were to me at the time of the incident.
Okay. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm going to hand you a.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, Your Honor. It was published to the world.
Yes.
Is that the photograph you just identified on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Showing you a second photograph. I'd like to ask you some questions about it.
Can we take that one down, Mr. Brennan?
Yes, of course.
Please, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. Does that photograph, you recognize that area?
Yes, sir.
Is that the same, or substantially the same area where you helped try to treat John O'Keefe?
Yes, sir.
Does that look to be a fair and accurate representation of the area?
It does.
Hold on, let me talk.
Okay, and there's no objection to any of these three?
No.
Okay. Yes.
Fervent, it is going great. My YouTube journey is going great. My life journey right now kind of blows. Fervent, can I ask you a huge favor? If this twatty EMS guy thought she hit him, the prudent thing to do would be to tell the cops. Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree that his focus should be to, save the guy's life. But if a comment came out like that, you'd expect them to report it. So, yeah. Yes, great videos, Fervent. I love Fervent's videos, as you guys know. Maybe we should take our break today and listen to my favorite Fervent song. How's that sound? I have a favorite to ask Fervent, though, if he doesn't mind. While we wait, give me one moment. Yes, we definitely know they are lying. Oops. As you all know, my favorite of all time song is the Fuck You Hank song by Fervent Hosp. Yeah. Terry is chatting with me in Discord too. But Fervent, if you're listening, I love my journey. I'm having a great time. I have great people in my chat. I love it. But I do have a small social circle, and I don't know if you've listened to any of my past videos and listened to the journey I'm going on in real life right now. I'm going to try and say this without blubbering, as Zach would put it. I am struggling a bit. I have rent due that I had money stolen from me I forgot my daily fuck you Boost Mobile. A friend of mine made me a Gibson Go link. I am in dire need, or else I wouldn't ask, truly. I know, no crying, right? I can't even get it out without crying. But if anyone, including Fervent, could share my link, I would truly, truly appreciate you more than you would know. I just don't have the social following to get it out there. So I'm asking anyone and everyone if they could share my link. I would truly, I would be in your debt forever. Either way, I appreciate you because you always give me a laugh. I love your videos. They provide the laughs I look for. And with that being said, while I dry up my tears because I can't help it, we are going to listen to my favorite song. Here we go.
I've been biting my tongue for so long. Fuck you, Hank. Think you're better than me. Fuck you, Hank. You are not lolly. Fuck you, Hank. Think you're better than me. Fuck you, Hank. But why don't we see? I'm a basic kind of guy. I really don't need a flaunt. Smoking 6 packs a day and I'm happy as a hog. All I do is mumble. Do I really need any lungs? The trial one jury was just like me. They were hung. Trial 2 came around and you wanna bench me? Not one guilty vote was embarrassing to see. Need to remind you that my jury was 9-3. Take your little OUI and get about the scene. Fuck you, hey, hey. Think you're better than me? Fuck you, hey. You are not lolly. Fuck you, hey. Think you're better than me? Fuck you, hey. Well, why don't we see? Oh, I know what will get us the win. Ask Rich about his fucking ham sandwich again. That'll prove this beyond all reasonable doubt. Oh, who am I kidding? This shit is a rout. You took this case so damn personally, and I hold that opinion to a scientific certainty. You weasel face, fuck bet, Arca Major P. Even with all the help you got from Beverly, standing ovation. What a robust cross. Psych. Your nerdy ass looks so fucking lost. Just think, $500,000 was all it cost to get our asses kicked in the fucking law. Fuck you, hey, hey. Think you're better than me? Fuck you, hey. You are not lolly. Fuck you, hey. Think you're better than me? Fuck you, hey. Well, why don't we see? Why don't we see?
Hey, how'd that case with the middle school teacher go? I hear you're taking more L's than the Commonwealth.
Hey! Waiting for your response, Spanky. Hey, yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Thank you, Fervent, for always giving me laughs. I mean, seriously. I tell people every day who join me that we need to search for smiles and laughs in life when it gets too stressful and depressing inside and outside of our homes. We are bombarded with the stresses of our lives, of the world outside our home, and your content always is a great source of those laughs, and I can't thank you enough for it. Truly. So, if for any reason I think everybody in my chat already follows you, Fervent, but if for any reason someone is watching and you haven't followed Fervent Hosp, you need to go to the channel right now and subscribe. It's just amazing. You will get smiles and laughs every time you watch a video. And I just saw your comment, Fervent. I truly appreciate it. You have no idea. I'm not going to go into detail. I've talked about it too much. I've already cried too much on live streams, so let's leave it at that. But yeah, right now, even just sharing that link could mean the world to me. Truly appreciate you. All right, after our smile break of the day, we are going to get back into this little twat's testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With court's permission, can I publish Exhibit 2?
Yes.
And sir, that's what you recognize as the area where you were helping to treat John O'Keefe.
Yes, sir.
I've left one last photograph in front of you.
Yes, sir.
And do you recognize that?
I do.
Tell us about any differences between when you were there and what you see in that photograph.
The street appears to be plowed. There's bare pavement. The weather conditions are significantly better. It is also daytime.
If we could take down that Exhibit 2, Ms. Gilman. May I approach your name?
Yes.
I would move to introduce this as Exhibit 3.
All right.
With the court's permission, can you publish Exhibit 3?
Sure.
Is that the photo you just identified?
Yes, sir.
We can take that down, thank you.
Wanted you.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Don't steal Terry's cheese, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. May I?
Yes, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, Firefighter Nuttall.
Good afternoon, sir.
Nice to see you again.
You as well.
Before your testimony this morning, how many conversations had you had with any member of the prosecution team in anticipation of your testimony today?
I believe it was 3, sir.
When were those?
I could not give you dates off the top of my head.
Give me a time frame. Within the last 3 weeks, within the last 3 months, last 3 days?
Within the last 3 weeks, I believe one the week after that, and then one last night.
One
Last night.
last night. What you did discuss, let's take them in order. First of all, who'd you meet with 3 weeks ago?
I met with Mr. Brennan and his staff.
And when you say his staff, who else?
I honestly couldn't tell you, sir.
Mr. Lally?
No. Sir.
Male, female?
One female, one I believe state trooper.
Okay. Had you ever met State Trooper Tully previously?
Yes, sir. Actually, I believe that was him.
It was State Trooper Tully?
Yes, sir.
Whom you've met with several times, correct?
Prior to that, I believe only once or twice.
He was the one that he has formally interviewed you previously, correct?
I believe he arranged the meetings with Mr. Brennan.
Okay.
But beyond that, I can't speak to.
What did y'all discuss 3 weeks ago?
The first meeting, going in order, it was mostly just kind of an introduction. I had not met Mr. Brennan yet. I really didn't know him. So it was mostly that, and then just kind of seeing where we were at with testimony, going over previous testimony and in that sort of realm.
Prior to today, how many times have you testified under oath concerning the incident on January 29th, 2022?
Once at a grand jury hearing and once last year.
All right. As a matter of fact, last year in this courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you look over your testimony at the grand jury 3 weeks ago during that meeting?
No, sir.
What about the testimony from last year?
We did go over the testimony from last year. Yes, sir.
Were there any issues that Mr. Brennan or anybody else in that meeting brought up concerning any of your testimony?
There was just a question of how many times the
I don't know about
the I
that.
hit him came up. It was 3 times.
Does
And
anyone
were
else
you
know?
advised that that's not what you said at your testimony last year?
Moni G asks, isn't he the EMT that worships Carrie? And scolded Karen for not thinking she was a good friend and support. I'll be honest, some of this kind of stuff I haven't heard till someone explains it to me. I don't know. So I'm assuming someone else might know. I didn't know any of them worshipped. Oh, Fervent has a new video. Well, let's go. Oh, wait. A new song or a new video? Hold on. Because I don't want to take his original content away from people viewing it on his channel. But let me look it up real quick. Like I have, just so you know, I have emailed Fervent a while ago when I started playing his song because I loved it so much. I made sure it was okay. And he said playing any of his stuff is okay as long as I give him credit. And of course, I would never want to take credit for someone else's work, especially the amazing things he does. I couldn't do them. I can tell you that right now. Why is it not showing his page? Hold on. What the heck? Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. YouTube's being funny again. You gotta love it. Let me do it this way. Go to its homepage. I want that FU tank. That's so cute. When I have extra money to buy merch, I'm definitely going to get one of those. Let's see what.
Set a baseline for discussion about a motion of this nature. I think we had to go back to some predicate rules in court and predicate rules in the justice system. The cornerstone of a just and an equitable system lies in the belief that every single individual that appears before the court has the same right to a fair trial. Chief among those rights enshrined in the Constitution here in Massachusetts and the Constitution in the United States is the impartiality and the neutrality of the judiciary. That's why we're here today. Anything less than that, and the system is rendered completely iniquitous. It's morally broken. But fairness and impartiality by the court is not enough. In other words, the court can't simply aver that it's fair, that it's unbiased after doing some soul searching. That simply won't do under the current law in Massachusetts and the current law in the United States. For a motion of this sort, it's not our burden to establish that this court is actually biased or actually partial in some way, and we are not.
This definitely goes
not making that argument.
So
I want to be very clear about that.
But this is from Fervent.
Rather, the Code of Judicial Ethics mandates disqualification of any jurist in any proceeding in which either the judge cannot be impartial
Why it looks
or
so outside all of a sudden, Moni.
The judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned by a member of the public. In other words, or in the words of the appeals court, quote, actual impartiality alone is not enough. Our decisions and those of the Supreme Judicial Court have commented often and in a variety of contexts on the importance of maintaining not only fairness, but also the appearance of fairness in every judicial proceeding. And it's that latter point or that latter rule that brings us to court today. We have, through our motion practice, presented facts and circumstances that would and have given reasonable, disinterested members of the public a basis to doubt this court's fairness and doubt this court's impartiality. Again, that does not mean, and we are not stating or averring, that this court is not fair or impartial. Only the court knows the answer to that question. But the facts we've presented unquestionably are such that the public might, and that's the key word, the public might doubt the court's fairness in some regard. And that's all that's required for this court to do the right thing and step aside from this case. Those facts which we have averred, which we've presented, all of which are public, it's not anything that we've supplied to the court which isn't already in the public discourse, include the following things. Number one, the court's, at this point, pretty routine practice of not ruling on important defense motions in a timely fashion. We have a motion before the court currently that I believe, if I counted correctly, as of today is 87 days old, and the court has not ruled on that motion. That's an important motion for us. It's a motion to compel, and it deals with physical evidence. But it still has, the court still has yet to rule. That is, in no small part, patently detrimental to the defense, to our moving forward with the defense case and our preparation. And it's a predicate of a fair judiciary, that decisions are made promptly and without any undue delay. That's contrasted, Your Honor, against the court regularly, apparently, ruling on motions that directly benefit the Commonwealth. Like when the court immediately ruled from the bench and granted two motions to...
Sorry, Alan Jackson, I hate to pause you, but James, see, this is the kind of shit, like, I don't know, but when you find this shit out and how much of these kind of things add up, it's absolutely insane. Morrissey's wife was Cannoni's mother's boss for over 30 years. Like, they're all in bed with each other. It's disgusting. And while if this was the only thing, the only connection between them, I'd think, oh, so what? But they add up. All of these little things add up. And then you got the biggest of them all. With them all being from, the police. Buddies in Blue. John was found on a police officer's lawn. And then you add all of these on top of it. The friends, like Moni G pointed out, was her name, the Sarah Levinson. I mean, it's insane. And the fact that they thought that they could just shove all of that shit under the rug and say, oh no, we did our jobs fair and square and we did everything. Yeah, we're not making shit up. No way. Are you? It's just stupid. Yeah. Moni says they are all such liars. It's gross. 100%. Morrissey's wife was head of the Quincy High School cafeteria, and Cannoni's mother worked for her. Wow. Oh, she was a lunch lady? Lunch lady. I'm sorry. Every time I say that word, it makes me think of Lunch Lady Land by Adam Sandler. Yep, lunch lady. I swear to God. I hate that every little thing is copyrighted. But if you have not heard the Lunch Lady Land song by Adam Sandler, go search it up. Go Google it because it's fucking funny. All right. Sorry, Alan Jackson. Didn't mean to pause you, but here we go.
Quash subpoenas that favored Brian Albert and Jennifer McCabe.
As the SJC has been very careful to protect the interests of innocent third parties, third-party record holders like Brian Albert, who are involved in the case because a defense attorney has decided to make them involved. If the mere fact that the defense gets to decide who is going to be important in their case allows them to then create this new procedure, every defense attorney that wants to examine and what I described as depose a witness will be able to issue Rule 17 summons and then a Rule 17A1 summons that says, by the way, we're going to take your live testimony.
You know, you can have as much entertainment as you want in a motion, and you can entertain the public, but this is not what the goal of a Rule 17 is. You can entertain at the time of the trial. You can present witnesses at the time of the trial. You can cross-examine and confront the witnesses at the time of the trial, not in a Rule 17. The Rule 17, as counsel has argued, is limited to the bare bones, if you will, production of things, as the statute makes reference to, objects that have been indeed produced by Ms. McCabe. She has been cooperating with the government every step of the way. She has provided her testimony as any good citizen would do. She's provided her statements to the police. She's provided her testimony to the grand jury. She's been interviewed a number of occasions by police officers, detectives, the government. She's done everything that she should do and should not be subject to, obviously, a spurious, if you will, summons to put her on that witness stand with the sole purpose and event, hoping to embarrass and hoping to obviously intimidate her as a witness. So I would ask that the court would allow the motion to quash the subpoena just as Mr. Henning did.
All right. So Mr. Albert's attorney says today that this court should just look at the affidavits and make a ruling on the motion. I posit to the court, how are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to evaluate competing affidavits and then resolve issues that are strictly focused on credibility? The only way that you can do that, Your Honor, is by having those witnesses come to court, testify before Your Honor, subject to cross-examination, and then you make findings of fact which would allow you to then make rulings of law on the Rule 17 motion. So we start at a baseline of our expert needs to testify, their expert needs to testify. In fact, we intend to call their expert as a witness first. And when I say expert, I'm talking about Trooper Garino, which is the witness that we have been provided notice of right from the beginning. We've just been notified at the last minute of the Commonwealth now trying to retain an outside expert, apparently feeling that Trooper Garino is not adequate. So Rule 17 is about the third parties. It's designed to protect those people who, by no fault of their own and no conduct of their own, become involved in a matter, either as a witness or a bystander or what have you. That's exactly what's happened in this case. And so rather than trying to meet the burden, after hundreds of pages of affidavit and supporting documents, what it boils down to is a phone call that was placed and never answered and no communication. And they're trying to use that plus all of the other window dressing to suggest that that allows the court to order a subpoena for a third party to turn over their personal effects. And that is not what Rule 17 stands for. I just ask that the court take this into consideration, even though it's not part of the opposition memo.
No, I'll take a copy of that. Thank you.
Talk about a regurgitation of the same tired, factually incorrect theory. That's exactly what you heard today, was exactly what Mr. Lally has been reciting. He literally read it from a paper that he's clearly had for some time. It's the exact recitation of the same facts that he's used over and over and over, and they are factually incorrect. He indicates none of the facts that we've cited in our moving papers are supported by any evidence. That's absolutely incorrect. That's absolutely incorrect. For instance, Jennifer McCabe. He said Jennifer McCabe was not up all night. There's no evidence whatsoever that Jennifer McCabe was up all night, except for her Apple Health data, which shows that she was up all night. We didn't make that data up. That data came right from a cell phone extraction that was conducted in no small part by their own expert, and then reconducted by our own expert. How about the fact that she was actually on the phone searching? The Safari data establishes that not only was she up all night, but that the phone and Safari was being manipulated during those times at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. These are unassailable facts, unassailable data, directly from the Celebrite extraction. These aren't, as Mr. Lally likes to say, fanciful facts. He's got that written down somewhere, obviously. He said that at just about every hearing. There's nothing fanciful about any of the facts that we've submitted and have supported with affidavits and evidence. The Commonwealth's theory, quite to the converse, is supported by nearly nothing. Nothing. Everything that we've suggested is supported by the data, the evidence, and the facts. The Commonwealth's theory is supported by conjecture and really bad policing. For those records, there was no delay. For that request, or a series of requests.
All of them.
Please turn off your audio.
Go ahead, Mrs. Jackson.
Best laid plans, right? For the request that I just mentioned about the quashal motions, there was no delay by this court. The court made the rulings from the bench, and that made the public, in public commentary, question the court's motives. In fact, the court has unilaterally sought to even advance certain motions that the Commonwealth has presented. May I?
Try again. Sure.
The court has unilaterally sought to advance motions that have been advanced by the Commonwealth while still not ruling on motions that we've had before the bench for not just days or weeks, but now months. And it's the disparity in that treatment. Look, I don't disregard the fact that the court is a very busy court, that the court is a supervising court. The court has a lot of balls in the air. It's the disparity between the court's rulings in terms of the Commonwealth's motions and the defense motions that I think give the public pause, and that's where we need to start our analysis. Number two, the court seems to have deviated from the normal course of procedure, in this case, in order to specifically stay on the Karen Reed case. And the court only made that known, or at least known to us, to the defense, after the Commonwealth filed a request to gag the defense. The optic is that the court had or has a personal interest in ruling on that particular gag motion, which is on calendar today, and wants to keep control over this case. That move has also prompted the public to raise questions about the court's fairness. Why is that happening? And it has eroded public confidence in the system, at least insofar as this case is concerned. Number three, the court outright denied Ms. Reed a full and fair opportunity to be heard, as the court recalls, the last time we were here on a critical Rule 17 motion. And that motion was from records, importantly, from the very same family that now claims to have a personal interest and a personal relationship with this court. Troublesome allegations, troublesome claims by the family at the very least. And that brings me to the final point and dovetails into that final point. Sean McCabe, a member of the McCabe family and a brother-in-law of Jennifer McCabe, whom we have argued in this court, should have at least been a suspect or a
You're going to
subject.
show that this way, Ms. Little. Why don't you show it to me? Thank you.
Sean
Go ahead.
McCabe made a claim to a reporter in public, claiming to have a personal relationship with this court. And he tried to prove it by citing to the fact that Sean McCabe knows personal information about the judge, which is extremely troubling, about a beach home, not just the fact that the court may own one, but exactly where it is. His words were, after receiving Sean McCabe's words were, after receiving a question from the reporter, do you really have a line to Judge Cannoni? His answer was, Auntie Bev? and I mean no disrespect, I'm quoting, Auntie Bev, whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your corpse under? Extremely troublesome dialogue.
This is what they do to me, a complete stranger who is simply reporting on all this. He says that we're going to bury my corpse at the home of Judge Beverly Cannoni, who he is now calling Auntie. Auntie. You don't, oh, believe me, this is all going to the defense. They're all going to be receiving this. And I will be writing about this.
But it's not just the threat that's inherent in the dialogue. That's on one level. It's the fact that this person claimed to know that this court may own a beachside cottage somewhere. Your Honor, I will say I've appeared before hundreds. At this point, I'm getting old. I may have appeared before thousands of judges in my nearly 30-year career. I've never, ever known where a single one of them has ever lived or property they may or may not have owned. But Sean McCabe appears to know, and he appears to intimate that he knows the details of this court's personal life. And it was his family that benefited by the cancellation of the evidentiary hearing, and it was his family that benefited from the court's quashal of our subpoenas. That claim by a McCabe family member of a personal connection to this court has been the fodder, Your Honor, of myriad public comments and questions about this court's ability to maintain fairness over this particular proceeding. And if that weren't enough, the defense has just recently received information that another witness, a seminal witness for the prosecution, by the name of Julie Nagel, who was in Julie Nagel, Nagel.
Good morning, ma'am.
How you doing?
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Yep, it's Juliana Nagel, Nagel.
Who was inside the house at 34 Fairview on the night of John O'Keefe's death, apparently some 5 months after John's murder, and this is all public. We didn't have to do any digging and searching with subpoenas or otherwise. This was all public information. She used a Venmo app to pay for what appears to be a beach house rental, and the recipient on the Venmo payment reads Frank and Beverly. And that is a public payment. It was there for all the world to see. And as soon as a reporter picked up on that, which is how we found out about it, and publicized that, she immediately took that payment down and took it off the internet. Obviously, I have no indication whatsoever, and I do not stand before this court suggesting that there's a connection.
I can't see that one, Ms. Little.
This is simply a screenshot.
Could you bring it closer? I have not seen the previous one, Ms. Little just held up. I know you put the other one with your.
What you're looking at is a screenshot of her having taken down that Venmo payment after it became publicized, which obviously looks somewhat suspicious on her part. These are all instances that have been the subject of public discourse, not just the defense team sitting in a room pontificating. Every single one of these instances has been something that has been in the public discourse. And the public is questioning this court's ability to maintain fairness given the panoply of information that is now before it, all in public documents that we happen to be privy to because we're part of the public as well. Nothing that we had to do any deep searching for. Your Honor, there has been an undeniable erosion of public confidence in this court's ability to be fair. But let me be very, very clear. The decision to recuse or disqualify a court due to the appearance of impartiality is not an indictment of this court's competence or integrity. It is not an indictment of this court's character. Nowhere close, and we do not aver that at all. Rather, the decision should be an expression of the unwavering commitment that this court has to justice, to fairness, to the rule of law. That's all. By taking this principled stance, the court will be safeguarding the core tenets of our justice system. Actual impartiality is not enough to deny this motion. If there's even an appearance of partiality, this court, according to the law and to the rules of judicial ethics, must grant this motion and disqualify herself. We simply ask the court not to let this perception cast a dark shadow on the scales of justice and over Karen Reed's right to a fair trial. I'll submit.
Does the Commonwealth want to be heard?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Again, just briefly, as far as this court's impartiality, I personally do not, nor have I ever even had a question in my mind as far as the court's ability to remain fair and impartial.
Hold on, let me pause it.
As it pertains to the standards.
I don't think they can hear you.
I'm so apologetic.
Does anybody know if anyone did try to confirm where that payment went once it was taken down? I mean, I don't know the legalities of stuff like that. Like, did Karen Reed's team try, and were they like denied that information, or because I don't even know that kind of stuff. Like, I learned about most of this stuff as trial 2 went on. That's why I'm doing all this revisiting and still learning stuff to this day. Hey, Prince Lover. Yeah, Bev has 0 principles. I totally agree there. Darth Vader, what's up, sweetie? Had to do some errands. Hope your day has improved since this morning. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. I briefly blubbered as I was sharing my my link with Fervent Hasp, who has graciously, beyond graciously, offered to, well, I asked him, but has agreed to share it around, which I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And to those that have donated already, and just to every one of you who spends, I say this every day, but I have to say it every day because I truly want you to know and believe that just spending your days with me, hanging out, having some fun, going through these trials means the world to me. So yeah. Yeah, we don't know. Okay, gotcha. Thanks, James. So we don't know if they were able to try and got denied or got any information on that. We don't know. Got it. Yeah, we don't, and that's the thing with the feds, you never know like what they are doing. I mean, they could still be doing things. The problem is, and the things I've said, is that they screwed up this investigation so bad that even if the feds are still investigating or tried to continue investigating, I don't think anyone will ever see the inside of a courtroom, let alone the inside of a jail cell, because they just screwed it up. James says, it's such bullshit that Kanoni decides whether she gets refused or not. It's the fox in charge of the hen house. Yeah. I've never understood that. Like, how does a biased judge get to determine whether they're biased? That's the dumbest, most backwards, stupid thing I've ever heard. I don't get it. I definitely can't wait, knowing that, what is that judge's name? Kathy McCarthy Neiman, whatever the fuck her name is. The bitch that threw Kelsey back in jail. From what I have seen, she's got three different investigations being done on her. And I cannot wait to see those. I hope she gets thrown off the bench, censured, fined, all of the above. Whatever can possibly happen to her, she deserves and more. When I listen to Microdot's video because I have never heard the audio from when she revoked her bail just for asking to have another way to do her drug and alcohol testing besides the scram that was literally hurting her, was medically not conducive to her healing. Like, she, you are the scum of the earth. And to throw the word, we don't want to torture her, so let's throw her back in jail. That was such bullshit. And the way she kept throwing around that word torture. And cruel and unusual. We don't want that. So we'll just put you back in jail because that's not cruel and unusual and torture for someone who literally just got out of the hospital after 53 days, surgeries after being shot. Are you fucking kidding me? And Kanoni, she is just above that bitch. Not by much, but just above. And these judges being allowed to make the determination whether they're biased or not just makes no logical sense. It's not going to happen. Immunity. Well, they do have qualified immunity, but that judge, she went up. I think she went outside her realm of qualified immunity, but that's just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's true. I don't know. I know Judge Bev definitely stayed within the lines, barely, but she did. Because I know a lot of people said the same thing about her, that she should be censured and thrown off the bench and this and that. But she did the bare minimum. But I think that Kathleen Nyman, whatever the hell, I always forget how the name goes. But I'll never forget her tone of voice. What she's, the snottiness, the holier than thou, better than you attitude. People like that don't deserve a gavel and a robe. Sorry, not sorry. The end of that audio is gut-wrenching. Kelsey is crying and Bradle is pleading. Yeah, I think he was just as shocked as the rest of them. Yeah, he was still trying to object. And she just walked off the bench and shut off the recorder. Like, I don't give a fuck what you have to say. I don't give a fuck if you have an objection. Screw you. The court's talk. The court's made its ruling. And that's it. Yeah. That, I mean, just talking about it even now makes my blood boil, my heart race, my blood pressure go up, just because people like that, it just makes me sick that people like that exist. And the way she used, I said this before even Kelsey did in the interview with Turtle Boy, the way she called her a defendant. In that judge's mind, she was already a guilty person who didn't deserve to be looked at as innocent before guilty. And then when Kelsey said that same thing, like the way she called me a defendant, couldn't believe, like it's you could tell. I think everybody could tell by her dang tone of voice, the way she said things. Just disgusting. You think it's Catherine or Kathleen? Oh, okay, Kathy. So I call it Kathy McCarthy Naiman. Naiman or Nyman, something like that. See, another reason why I can't remember it. My bad. Oh, you're good with the caps. I don't even see it. What do you mean caps? I don't even see caps. You're all good. Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah. I don't mind the caps. They don't bother me any. I know some people it bothers. I know in EDBs you can't do all caps or it's deleted. And I understand that too. When you have bigger chat, Next Witness was actually talking about this last night. Like when you have a bigger chat and it's flying by and people take up, lines and lines of caps and emojis. I get it. But I have such a small chat that I don't mind it. I don't think I'll ever mind caps. It doesn't bother me none. And then tried to say he cussed at her. She did? See, I didn't hear that. Wait, the judge accused Bradel of cussing at her? Are you serious? Wow. See what I mean? Like, she has some fucking nerve. Potato. Yeah. Exactly. Whatever. That's why I just say whatever the fuck her name was, because she doesn't even deserve the respect of me learning her name properly. The SJC told Bradel cussed at her. Or was told Bradel cussed at her. What the fuck ever. I'm sorry. I don't believe that for a moment. And you know what? That's probably why she turned the fucking recorder off, so she could just say whatever she wanted. If she hadn't turned the recorder off, it would have all been recorded. Yeah, see? Like you said, after the recording was off. Exactly. That's why she turned it off. Not only to be a bitch, but to, I swear these people plan ahead. I've said this about Justin's text. I've said it about a lot of things in both these cases. They plan ahead for this kind of shit. They abuse the system. They just abuse their power. And that's why going over this and over this and over this until one day, maybe it makes a dent in the bullshit that goes on. Maybe it'll make a little bit of a difference. I guess that's what I hope and pray for one day. All right, let's watch the rest of Bourbon's awesome video. And then we'll get back and let me see how much is left of Nuttall's testimony. Still an hour. Actually, we'll get back into Nuttall's testimony tomorrow. Because it's already almost 5 o'clock. I do have to work on some things because I do have to figure out what I'm doing for my rent and such. I don't know. I have a lot of things going on. I don't know how to go about this. I've been trying to do other things for the last couple weeks. I've been going on and on. I do have some things that I can sell, which is what I was going to try and do today. Have a bunch of collectibles that I can try and list somewhere. But Anyways, so let's finish up this video because I always enjoy learning what these things that I don't know that I don't know yet, and I know there's more out there. So here we go.
Apologize.
No, I saw your client and I interrupted Mr. Lally.
Is it possible that he could address the board from the podium?
Yes.
Your Honor, let me start again, and then first I just want to impart that I personally do not, nor have I ever had any questions, even a moment of pause in regard to this court's ability to be fair and impartial on this or any other case. As the court is well aware and was recently reiterated by the appeals court in the Mitchell case,
biased towards the prosecution
as it applies to this. First, as counsel alluded to, the subjective determination by a judge believing that they can be impartial. And secondly, an objective appraisal of whether this is a proceeding in which the court's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. And I think the operative word there is reasonable. The support of the motion, and let me be clear that whether the court, Your Honor, chooses to retain jurisdiction in this case, or passes to another judge to retain jurisdiction in this case, or passes from judge to judge as the judges rotate in and out of the session, really is of no consequence to the Commonwealth. But what I would say is that, again, that operative term being reasonable, and the three sort of key things the counsel seems to want to hang their hat on is essentially the first being some conversation between two individuals who have literally nothing to do with this case, who talk about this case in an online discussion. And there's a great many things that are said in that online discussion, but we seem to be focusing on just this one thing and accepting this is true because this is what this person said. Whereas there are a great number of other sort of defamatory things that are said by this person, Mr. McCabe, in reference to this blogger. And we're not jumping to the conclusion that any of those things are true. I don't know whether they are or they aren't, but I'm just saying that we're focusing in on this one particular thing. From that attachment the counsel filed as far as that conversation, which is appeared to be a true and accurate copy of that conversation, but it's not appeared to be a complete transaction of that conversation. But from what's attached, direct the court's attention to page 6, in which Mr. McCabe intimates in there that he doesn't really know anything about the case.
Okay.
Additionally, I would direct the court's attention to page 9, where I think it's pretty clear from there that the recipient of these communications, this blogger, doesn't even believe Mr. McCabe himself in his averments that he knows the court or is familiar with the court or has any influence over the court. And lastly, from that attachment, I direct the court's attention to page 11, in which it references earlier posts by this blogger about the judge. And that's, again, I think we're looking at this divorced from the context in which this communication arises. This is not something that Mr. McCabe just generates out of his own head, as far as, along with a litany of other assertions that he makes in reference to this blogger.
Have a good one, James.
But it comes from prior posts and prior communications that were expressed by this blogger of already intimating impartiality by the court, just in reference to adverse rulings, which brings me to my second sort of underpinning of this motion, being that the court has, I guess, adversely ruled or denied motions that were filed by the defendant. I don't really see that as being any sort of valid basis for a judge to recuse themselves. Otherwise, every time a judge denies a motion, then we're going to have to find a different judge because they don't agree with me. And in particular, they're pointing to a motion which had absolutely no basis in the rules of criminal procedure whatsoever, as far as having an evidentiary hearing on a Rule 17 motion. And the third thing, as far as deviation from procedure of the Norfolk Superior Court, there are a number of cases that different judges might hold on to for a period of time. They might assign themselves to or be assigned to retain jurisdiction. And the court, hearing this motion or any other motions in this case going forward, regardless of whatever session Your Honor is assigned to, it's really of no consequence, and it's really not anything that's out of the ordinary, as evidenced by the case that was called prior to this case, which is a trial that was conducted before Your Honor last November of a co-defendant. There's a scheduled trial date coming up in this November of the co-defendant from that prior trial. It's not an abnormal thing for this court or any court to do. For those reasons, again, I would pray upon the court as far as the decision is concerned, but as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, there's no request for the court to recuse themselves, and whatever judge hears the case is whatever judge hears the case. Thank you.
Do you want to respond, Mr. Jackson?
Very, very briefly. The only thing I would draw both the Commonwealth and the court's attention to is the person that made the statement, Sean McCabe, is related to Jennifer McCabe. He's a brother. He also didn't just throw sort of a dart at an empty dartboard. He hit the target because he made a claim that he had a personal relationship with this court, or at least his family had a personal relationship with this court. And that turned out to be at least some of the facts that he made, or that he claimed in the post, turned out to be true. And we've attached that. I'm going to be delicate about my comments here because it's sealed, and it should be sealed. That portion should be sealed or impounded. But it turns out that it's true, and the courts had access to, had an opportunity to see that. Also, with regards to the second post, it's also true in terms of the family members' names. It's not like they're just
True what?
The family members' names. Okay. This court's family members' names, which I don't need to repeat here. But there is some fact-based information that troubled us because it turns out to be somewhat true. Now, the last thing that I'll say is that the Commonwealth's position was, it may not be true. There's a bunch of invectives in that string of communications between the investigative reporter and Sean McCabe, and half that stuff may be true. And Mr. Lally's words were, I don't know if they're true. And that's the point. He doesn't know if they're true. I don't know if they're true. I hope they're not true. I desperately hope that what Sean McCabe said is not true, but it doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what the public perceives might be the case. And the word might is in the rule. It doesn't have to be the case. But a reasonable person looking at this from the outside looking in, if they're disinterested, might they think that the court has some relationship that would compromise the court's ability to be fair. That's enough. And at that point, it triggers this court's requirement to disqualify itself. That's all. We're not suggesting that the court is not fair, nor impartial. Nor partial. We're suggesting that the public may perceive it that way, and they reasonably have perceived it that way. And I'll see that.
Okay. It's 2:35. I'm going to take a 20-minute break to consider what I've heard here today. Obviously, I've read everything in advance. Let's
Thank you.
All right.
We all know she already knew what she was going to say.
You are unmuted.
And if you see it, close the session.
You didn't consider what? White claw break. Yeah.
Your Honor, we're back on the Karen Reed matter, 22-117.
All right. Thank you.
She didn't have
So
a
I
jury to
appreciate
blame this
the
time.
arguments of counsel.
Reading
I've
a break.
considered those arguments. I've considered the pleadings, the motion, the attached affidavits, the big pack of attachments to the motions. I've considered those placards that were shown here today. A couple of them I hadn't seen before. So the defendant raises 4 discussion points in their motion. There's some claim delay in my rendering decisions. There's dissatisfaction with adverse rulings and alleged impropriety of retaining jurisdiction. But notably, there's some allegation that I have some relationship with a man named Sean McCabe, and that therefore I have a connection to this case, and therefore I have a bias in favor of the Commonwealth. That simply is not the truth. I can assure all parties that I don't know Sean McCabe. As far as I know, I have never spoken to him or had any contact with him.
She said she doesn't know them.
As far as you know,
I've never interacted with him, and I certainly never have socialized with him or with any family members or any witnesses whose names have been said here in court or who were in the pleadings. In this last one, I think the person's name on the placard that was held up was Julie Nagel. I do not know her. I have never rented my house down the Cape to anybody, and I don't spell my name the way it was spelled on the placard, and I think counsel are well aware of that.
Seriously?
And doesn't that underscore the fact that anybody can say or write anything and try to make it the basis of a motion to recuse? And I think it points out that this motion to recuse is not credible. There's no actual lack of impartiality.
No, all right, I'll hear you at sidebar.
There is no reasonable or credible appearance of lack of impartiality.
why is she breathing so hard?
And I want to make it very clear that I reject the notion that untrue and unsubstantiated rumors spread on the internet can force a judge to recuse herself from a case. Simply because someone plays with my name or gives credence to those who do. By holding up a placard, you can't create a reasonable and credible appearance of lack of impartiality. I'm sure counsel's aware that prior to me becoming a judge, I spent my entire professional career representing criminal defendants in very serious cases in the courts of Massachusetts. I know full well the importance of a fair and impartial judge.
Wow.
The Massachusetts Declaration of Rights makes sure that every citizen who appears before the court has a fair and impartial judge. And I know full well how to follow my oath and comply with my ethical obligations. All 4 points raised in the defendant's motion are without merit. Your motion is denied. I will have written findings by the end of today summarizing what I've said here. And I will give you, Mr. Jackson, whatever time you need to appeal this decision. How much time do you think you need?
May I just walk on?
Yes.
Geez, she always puts her on the
Thank
spot.
you for that invitation. We're not inclined to appeal at this point.
How much
All right,
do
Mr.
you-
Yannetti,
how much time do you
Mr.
need?
Yannetti, I will hear you, I'm sorry, Mr. Lally, I will hear you on the Commonwealth's motion to prohibit prejudicial extrajudicial statements of counsel.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Mr. California, think you can one-up me when the prosecutors yell objection, I say sustained. Call my verdict slips confusing. Oh well, that's the Commonwealth. I gotta leave at 3:30, and you can all go to hell. Beverly's Court, you don't wanna fuck with me. Even Spanky, here in Beverly's Court. Beverly's Court, you don't get double jeopardy. Even Miss Reed, trying in Beverly's Court. The truth is, I'm not going anywhere. It's Judge Bev, baby, and I'm here to stay. Yes, I am, and I have more people to protect and more defendants to put in debt. I'm the queen in this house of cards. It's Beverly's Court. You don't wanna fuck with me. Even Spanky, here in Beverly's Beverly's Court. Beverly's Court. You don't get double jeopardy. Even misread, trying in Beverly's Court.
That was amazing. I love his the music he does is so awesome. Fervent, thank you for that video. Very informative since I've never seen any of that. And as always, great song to end it with. Anyways, guys, we are gonna call it a day today. Well, I am gonna call it a day today as far as testimony in the second trial goes. We will pick this up tomorrow about 1 o'clock, as I do every day. I am gonna get off the internet, try and figure out some other avenues, and cross my fingers that it's all gonna work out. I will keep you guys updated, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you supporting me. It means so much to know that I have people out there who not only just care, just, like to hear my opinions, like to hang out with me on a daily basis, watching the trials and just having some fun. So thank you so much, guys. I love you all. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I will surely see you guys in the chats later. Of course, Turtle Boy will be on tonight. I think Will the Glare has already gone live. So have a great day, everybody. Hey, Shelly, caught the tail end. I'm sorry. But I love you too, Shelly. I love you all. And Shelly, I hope you're having an okay day today. And I will see you all in the chats and be back tomorrow. Keep your chin up, Miss Scarlett. This too shall pass. You're absolutely correct. And I will try as hard as I can. You guys help me do that, truly. All right. Love you all. See you later. Bye.